All right. Let me make sure that this is going correctly. It's counting down. All right, yeah, we are live.
From New
Hey,
York, it's Saturday night.
all right.
Oh, it's Saturday night.
You want to start?
Yeah.
It's live. So go right ahead.
Oh, hold on. I don't know how we're going to do this. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Olympic Games. We have casted the best of the best of the best from all of Kaleidoscope Pass to assemble here in the Olympic Village to compete in the Olympics of Orgs, Kaleidoscope, where the best come to play and the best come to slay. Now, we're going to analyze each and every one of them, and we're going to determine what we think, how they'll do, how they're going to play, who they're going to work with, and what their ultimate fate is going to be. Will they succeed and repeat the success of the past? Will they find redemption from the toils that they faced in the previous past? Or will they just straight up flop and they'll be gone within the first week? We don't know, but we're going to assess them all. So let's begin.
Let me go ahead and share my screen, if it'll work, please. Okay. Do we all see the cast assessment? All good?
Jess.
All right, so we have players in season order, so the season they are representing. So first will be season 1 Inferno, then Firewall, then Solar Flare, and it goes like that. And based on the season, it goes from placement ascending. So it's third, so like if it's the top 3 that are representing that season, it's third place, then second place, then first place. And then we move on to the next one. Some of our Olympians have played multiple seasons. We have indicated which one they are representing more. For example, we have Noah, who has played season 3 and season 7. Even though Noah played season 3 first, they made it farther in season 7 and are therefore representing 7 deadly sins in these Olympics. So let's go ahead and get started with our first season, Inferno. And our first player to chat about the third placer of season 1, we have Jess. All right, who wants to get this one started?
I guess I should. Just because, obvious reasons. So can you mute yours, babe? Sorry, it's just talking and I get echoed. So Jess is my twin sister, and Kaleidoscope season 1 Inferno was Jess's very first org, and I knew that she was gonna do really well, and I knew she was gonna do really well in that season. I didn't expect at the time for her to go on to be such a huge org player. Like, she plays orgs all the time now. I thought she was going to be a one and done, to be quite honest with you. Um, but she is the kind of person that is very she's very passionate about the things that she does, and she like gives 110% no matter what. So, like when she plays, it's like she gets like hyper focused on things. So I think that's why she is really good. Um, she she is more of a social player, and like gets in good with people, and gets people on her side really easily. So I think, being that it's an all-star season, um she's honestly not one of the more connected people on this cast, but she does have a few key people that I think will want to keep her around. So I'm curious to see how she will do with all of these people that do have more bonds than her. But I'm really excited to see her back after all this time. So, yay, Jess.
Having played with her in this original season, and then going out, and then having played with her in CTC, I do agree that her biggest strength is her ability to make connections. Um, so I'm very interested to see who she bonds with. I'm also interested to see if she ends up with Josh on the same tribe and how their interactions will be. So it'll be very interesting. She's one to watch.
Yeah, I just want to ask for reference really quickly. Do we know what Jess's activity will be like how active she is as a player?
Um, she, as long as so when I approached her about this season, um, she's in vet school right now, so like that's like a big factor for her. But she's back in the classroom as opposed to being on rotations, like on like doing like clinicals. So that does open up her free time a little bit more. And even when she says she is busy, she still makes time for the orgs that she plays. It's like she doesn't sleep, by the way. Like she just like doesn't sleep.
All
Insane.
right. So some of these players from earlier seasons I'm a little bit less familiar with. I know of Jess, but I've never actually like hosted her or watched her play too closely. But like y'all said, she does seem to be a very social person. How that will work for her in this cast is a bit too early to tell because I think we have a lot of really social players, and then we also have a lot of game body players. Like I can name a couple like a Keaton, a Josh, I could see Mike is a little bit of both. A Kedi is a little bit more game body, but I could see it being like there's a ton of people that are a lot more social, and then a ton of people that are a lot more strategic, and there's a little bit of a clash there. I think she should be fine. I don't see any worries for her in this first round because I think this first round, how it's going to work is so drastically different from like the normal Survivor format because every single person is going to tribal. Um, and that's either going to be used to A, thin the herd, or B, take out some of the bigger threats, such as potentially the winners. I don't think Jess is going to apply to either of those. And I think if she's able to make it past this first round in a decent way into the pre-merge, I think she'll be able to make those social bonds to go for a deep run.
Well, she's not afraid to make a big move either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if she's able to make it past the first couple of rounds, get a good group of people around her, I can see her leading the charge on a couple of people.
All right, Sean.
I honestly don't even know what to say because I feel like you guys said it the best. I think the one thing that we all know she's really good at is her social game. The one thing I'm excited to see is how now she can navigate with different types of other players since she's more, I guess, because at the time she was like, this is her first org. Now she's more like, I guess, seasoned a little bit more. So that's what I'm gonna be like watching when it comes to her.
All right, Caleb.
I'm gonna be a very silent voice for some of these players because as someone who's only played two orgs and is only in like enough Discord servers I can count on my hands and toes, which compared to other people, their Discord is flooded with more servers than they can count. I have a lot of people in this cast that I don't really know. However, Jess was someone who I at least interact with a little bit in previous like general chats and stuff, and they come across as very like composed, which I think is going, as someone else said earlier, kind of going to help them in the early rounds where other people are going to stand out. I don't think Jess will. I think Jess will be able to kind of handle that opening twist very well.
I think that Jess has made it very far in every game that Jess has played. I think she's only been pre-juror once, and I think she still made merge in that season. So I have a lot of confidence in Jess's ability to come in and make friends and to be able to go the distance. Now, with that said, I know that Jess is on really a certain side of the org community. It's not good or bad, but it's just a certain side of the org community that kind of ends up all playing the same games with each other. Like it's the different, it's just a different side than what our side is. So she is not as well connected, but I do think there are some people that actively want to play with her in this game. So I don't think she's going to struggle at all with making it deep in this game. I don't think she's going to struggle at all with building the bonds. Now, could she get this being an all-star season? Could she get one track minded and it become like maybe she might have some rivalries with people that she played with in this season that could lead to there being tension. But I don't think she's going to have any issues with that. I would say that she is definitely in the top 5 of winner potentials that I would have on the table. If she can go there, she's definitely got winner potential. So that's my thoughts on that. Oh, but then also with her having never gone out early, there is always that one season that we all play that we flop. And if you haven't had your flop yet, it's coming.
Right. And I think everybody's touched on Jess. Next, we are going to be moving on to our second placer from season 1, which is Brien.
I could start again.
Let's just go in the same order over and over.
Okay. So Brien was such an interesting character in season 2. Like for those of you that might not remember or don't know, he was in a really good spot with a good group of people, and then he like flipped on them like halfway through and ended up getting all the way to the end. Obviously that caused some bitterness with some people. Alas, he got second place. But he played it really well. I mean, I was impressed to see the way that he was just like kind of betraying people and then still not getting voted out because of it. Um, but yes, then we see Brien again in season 4, where he does not have a very hot performance. And yeah, so I think Brien is someone that like he doesn't seemingly play that often anymore. I don't see him around too much anymore, but I think that if he is active enough, he can position himself well. I don't know. He's one that I can't tell. I really like he's one for me that it's hard to say what I think I think he's gonna do.
I don't think I got to play with Brian whenever I did season 1. I think we were on 2 separate tribes, so I got to see the tribal councils, but I don't think I actually got to play with him. And then being on prod for season 4, he essentially screwed himself. So I
Oh
think
my
if
God, wait,
he's
how did I forget that? That was crazy.
yeah. So I think if he is able to more so replicate his performance from season 1 and be kind of that loose cannon that's not afraid to flip on people, he has a better chance of success versus where I think he went wrong in season 4 is that he tried to help out his friends and that ended up biting him. So I think he's got to kind of play the lone wolf again and look out for number 1.
But it's clear with both of these seasons how he performed. He is not afraid. He's another one, not afraid to make a move, which I love.
Yeah. So Brien is somebody who, for me, I have a little bit of pattern looking at this cast, where I'm a lot more worried for the runner-ups than I am for the winners, which, first of all, we have 7 winners and 6 runner-ups, which is like a fucking crazy statistic. But for some reason, I get the vibes that a lot of the runner-ups are going to be gone early, or at least not make it too deep into the game. Brien is somebody that I've played with a couple times before, and I know that once he gets his grips in, he can stick with a group for a long time. But he also gives the vibes of somebody that, like, if he isn't 100% happy with his position and he gets bored, he's gonna just fuck around and find out, flip on that group, go do something else, fuck people over, and like have not have a second thought about it. Which I think could assist him in getting far in the game, but I don't know how much capacity he has to play a winning game. I don't know if he's won any of these games before. Um, I also know that sometimes he takes a little bit more to warm up socially, which is dangerous for the format for this season. So I'm hoping that we get to see him turn it up really quick and really fast. Um, and I don't know if he has been around that much in the org community, like Jen said. So he have to like do a little bit of warming up first because he's been gone. But yeah, he's somebody that I'm a little bit more hesitant on, but I could see doing very well because he knows how to play these games. He knows how to get far. He has a pretty decent amount of strategic acumen. It's just, will he just go batshit to the wall crazy, or will he stay relatively calm?
Yeah, for me, honestly, watching Brian play season one was honestly really fun to watch because the one thing I noticed with Brian is he's able to adapt to everything that comes his way. I mean, him accidentally playing an idol and turning that around so people don't target him flipping on an alliance and still be able to move into another bigger alliance and get himself out of that sticky situations. So I hope to see that gameplay again. As far as season four, I can't really speak on it because I wasn't there, so I don't know. But yeah, that's all for me.
I will always support someone who's willing to backstab, maybe do a little bit of a flip. And from what I'm hearing, sounds like Brian's gonna be really fun to watch. I also just love this outfit. Anyone who puts effort into their their picture for the season is immediately going to be someone that I also want to see do well. Because the more effort you put in, the more fun it's going to be, not only for like the players, but also for us. So I'm very excited, very, very excited for Brian.
So season 4 was designed in a way to have one tribe be made up of players that played well, but maybe had sort of a faux pas or a reason to come back and like make up for what had happened in the previous season, on top of, intentionally bridging the name change. So when Brian played season 2, he was a good candidate for season 4 because of when he played season 2, his willingness to make moves was there. He was bold about it. He wasn't abrasive. He was very strategic. He was very smart, and he was very social. But his downfall was he hitched his ride to someone he was never going to beat in the end. So it wasn't just about the bitter jury, which, yes, was bitter, but he took one of the gamiest game sharks possible to the end that he had multiple opportunities to potentially eliminate from the game and elected to not do so and stayed loyal to the fact that he ended up being runner-up. Now, can Brian finally get out of that shadow? Because again, when he came into season 14, he made a mistake with the idol that ended up sorry, season 4. Made a mistake with the idol that ended up backfiring. He came in 14th place. That's why I said that. Made a mistake with the idol that ended up backfiring on him. But now here he sits. This is truly an opportunity for him to redeem himself. I do not know his other org history as far as whether or not he has won. I know that he's done well in other orgs. I know he's done bad in other orgs. So this is really Brian's chance to shake the past Is Brien playing to shake the past though? I'm not certain. And is Brien gonna fall into old habits? I'm not certain. I don't know if Brien has the connections to be assertive with his connections. So Brien is actually the biggest unknown for me in this game. And I don't mean anybody has the possibility to win it. However, Brien is not in my top 5 of potential winners for this season. So yeah, I think Brien is going to do very well. He's going to bring great entertainment. He's going to make good game moves. But I do think that Brien's time in this season will come to an end at some point. That flame that he holds in his hand will be extinguished.
All right, and with that, we are done with discussion of Brien, and we are going to be moving to our first placer, our winner from season 1, and that is Josh.
I remember like when we were doing season 1 and like as soon as I saw his app come in, I was like, he's winning. Like literally as soon as his app came in, I was like, he is going to be the winner. And here he is. Um Josh is not like he's a gamer if I've ever seen one. Definitely someone who knows how to play these games. He's very good at them. He's won many of them. However, I think in terms of our winners, he may be one of the first winners to go, if I had to guess, because this cast is, again, there's so many connections and people know Josh and know Josh's style of play. And I think people are going to want to get him out because of how threatening he can be. I also know, for example, like I can see Jess wanting to get him out after the way that Jess and Josh's relationship was in season 1, and he just so like played her so hard, and she was like poor little innocent Jess in her first org, like getting freaking eaten alive by Josh. No, but I think he's a fantastic player, but he's definitely one that, like I said, if we're looking at all the winners, his win equity to me is not very high. But I don't know. He's really good, so maybe he's got a few tricks up his sleeve. He's also another one that I don't think has played very much recently. We weren't even sure he was gonna say yes when we asked him to play this, which we're very happy that he did say yes. So I don't know. We'll see. We will see.
I think with Josh and probably with a lot of the winners, I think their saving grace is the fact that they are large targets. And I think a lot of people are going to want to fly under the radar. Josh is a very smooth talker, so I think he's going to be able to convince a lot of people that, hey, I already have a large target. Why would you get rid of me now? Take me a little bit further and you can get me out later. And so I think he's going to be able to probably convince a lot of people to take him further than they otherwise should and work against their own interest. I do think all of our winners do have a large target on their back. I would love to crown a two-time winner, but I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah, so shit, what was I gonna say? I completely blanked. I agree that I'm very worried for all of our winners. I think any of them could be targeted super early. I'm gonna say this, and I mean zero shade, and Josh knows this. I used to talk with Josh a lot, back in like 2020, 2021, 2022. I think he's switched to play more LRGs now, if I'm correct, and doesn't really play at orgs anymore. And something I'm worried about is similar to a basketball player, like the jersey he has on, he may be past his org prime. He was very, very, very good at these games for a long time, and I'm very curious to see how much he still has it. I think something that I'm considering coming into this season is a lot of other players are a lot more hungry for a win and are going to fight as hard as they can. I'm not sure how much of that we're going to see from Josh. Putting all that aside, all that shade aside, Josh is an incredibly good strategic player, but he does not hide that he is a strategic player well at all. And it's okay on a cast of new players, but a large percentage of this cast knows who Josh is and what Josh is capable of. We do have some newer faces in the cast, but I'd like to say we have a wide range of like pre-2020 org players, like 2020 to 2022, and then 2022 to 2024 org players. We have a variety of all three categories. Josh is one of our like longer running org players. But they all know who he is. They all know what he's going to try to do. It just depends on if they're going to let him do it or not, which in another cast I could see. In this cast, I'm not so sure. His best saving grace early on is that they either target another person first or they don't look at winners at all. And like maybe there's some sort of winners coalition that comes to fruition, especially if there's a winners majority on one of the starting tribes. I think if he makes it past the pre-merge, he could go pretty far. I could see him winning again, but he's one of the people I'm more shaky on in terms of winners that could win for a second time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like Josh, out of all the winners, I feel like Josh is the only one that would have to fight more in my eyes. I mean, in season one, he was very like he had like what like only like a few people that he knew outside and in the game, so like he was able to strategically place himself in that kind of position. And then Jess in his back corner having to basically take her in and throw her out at the very end. But I feel like he has a lot of fighting to do when it comes to this cast. My other thing is, I feel like when it comes to like I guess a winner alliance thing, I feel like he would be the first one to strike first against the other winners.
I think Jen brought up a very good point about connections. And while I said at the beginning when talking about Jess that, you know, I'm someone who doesn't know a lot of these early season players, and that's entirely my own fault for not being a part of the community, there might be other people who are in a similar boat in our cast to how I am currently as a production member, where people don't really know Josh, and that could be a detriment. So it's entirely unlucky if there are people targeting based off connections. Um, I've I've both been on the successful side of that and also seen connections kind of hurt my chances in games. But I do worry about that because like if I don't know who Josh is, there's at least one other person on this cast who doesn't know who Josh is, and that's not something you want going into the season.
And I think to add to that, it's like, excuse me, there's like people that don't know him because they're newer. And I think that the people that do know how much of a threat he is and might spread that around to the people that don't know him.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree because there's some people on this cast that are newer. Like, I don't know if Tyler N would know of Josh. But the word's gonna go around quick. These bitches are gonna talk a lot. And if there's one person they're gonna talk about as a threat, that one person is going to be Josh. I don't think having some people that don't know him is going to come too much of a benefit when the people that do know him are also some of the people that are going to be the most ferocious on this cast.
So, Josh is our very first winner. And I would say that Josh's path to the end was arguably the easiest path of all of our winners. Okay. I think that Josh very easily took a hold of this cast of newbies that didn't know quite what they were doing and had a mix of preseason support as well as like people that he knew sort of preseason as well as newer players that kind of like gravitated towards Josh. I do think that there's an element to taking time away from the game adds a little bit of ring rust to you, if you will. It's hard to just hop right back on that basketball court. There's also an element to, maybe he ain't as good as he once was, but he is as good once as he ever was. But I think that ultimately, Josh now has the hardest path of any player to win this game because of the fact that he is the first winner. If he was just playing some other random org that had the same amalgamation of cast on there, I think it would be fine and it wouldn't really matter that much. But I think there may be something to the fact that he's going to have players that did not win seeking to dethrone him, and he's going to have players that did win seek to dethrone him, because everybody needs to prove that the first isn't the best. And so some people may think it might not be fun for the king to go home on the first day, but if traction gains and there's that opportunity to take out Josh, and you got to think of like that first whisper comes to you and it's like, you think we could do Josh? And there's like going to be a sense of like adrenaline rush that goes through the player as they hear that name for the first time. It's going to spread. And I think that Josh could end up being a very early boot. I think somebody may end up hurting their own game by targeting Josh too soon, because I do think that, it'll take Josh off the table as both an ally and an enemy. But I do think that Josh goes pre-merge if it's an even back and forth, win and loss. I think that Josh has a lot of potential to go pre-merge, because I think the first time his name is mentioned and it gains traction, I think it'll be too hard to resist the juicy target of taking out the first winner and dethroning the king.
All right, and with that, we are done with our season 1 players. And next, we're going to be moving to season 2, Firewall. We have 2 representatives from this season, which makes it the least represented season on this cast, but we do have some heavy hitters. So we're going to go ahead and start with our second placer from this season, and that is Susie.
My Susie. Look at her. She's so cute. Susie, not only two-time player, but also production member. So that's something for players to consider as well. People like Susie and our other beloved Jacob, both prod members, both, did very well in their seasons. Maybe they will get targeted for that. Maybe they won't. We shall see. But Susie is such, she's like seriously an enigma. Like she really is. Like she is like the most complex yet simple person that I know. And Susie is truly one of my best friends, literally in the entire world. Um, and I love her dearly. And she got 17th place in season 4. She was the second boot. So with Susie, she she's just there for the ride. She's just there for the ride. That's the kind of person she is. And she I can see, depending on the way that these people decide they want to play this first round, I could very easily see her getting sniped because she is just there, and she's not necessarily the most strategic. So she's just there, and I love her. Um, but I would love to see her turn up that social game. I know she can do it because she's very funny. She's very likable. It's just a matter of if she puts in the effort, to be quite honest. So I don't know. I think if she makes it past that first round, she has the potential to go far. Um, just because she is kind of more under the radar, and people might want to look for people like that to have in their pocket. Or the opposite, they're gonna want to keep targets around and get rid of the people who are unassuming. So I really don't know.
Yeah, and to, kind of play off of that, Susie is a very nonchalant kind of player, which is comical, and it's so funny to watch. I think Susie's downfall in season 4, because I'll be honest, I know nothing about season 2. I didn't pay any attention to it. But in season 4, I feel like Susie's downfall was the lack of connections. So if she's able to beef up her social game and be strategic and willing to share information and all of that, then I do think that she has the ability to go far because she is a likable individual. She's there to have a good time. She's there to make you laugh. She's just fun and funny. So I think if she's able to do the social strategic part of it, I can see her being at least on the jury.
Um, for me, I didn't really see Susie play either of her seasons, but just knowing who she is and what y'all describe, Susie is probably my biggest question mark. I could easily see her getting any placement from first boot to making it all the way to the end, and it really depends on how the rest of the cast plays around her. From what it sounded like, she's not one of the most strategic people here, but what she lacks in sort of strategy, she makes up for in her social game. So if she's able to make those connections early on, I could see her making a deep run, especially if people, because firstly, I think Susie is going to be the most underappreciated person on this cast. I don't think anybody's going to come into this season and be like, okay, I need to be worrying about Susie. And if people come in with the mindset of let's start swinging early on, which I think they will, Susie will be fine. And Susie will be fine for a hot minute unless she becomes any sort of detriment to her tribe. But if she avoids that early spot, I could see her making a pretty deep run, especially if she gets in with the right people. But like I said, zero fucking clue. This one is going to be, if no matter what placement Susie gets, I'm gonna look at it and say, okay, that makes sense. But she's amazing. She is so sweet, and I love her on Zoom calls. So I'm hoping she does well because I think she's just gonna be such a joy to host.
I love Susie. Um, Watching her play in season two was honestly was so funny. I Susie's personality, honestly, I think breaks everyone in this game. Like she's very bubbly, very funny, very like she's just there. Like she's here for to have a good time. Um, I'm losing my train of thought. Um, in season two, honestly, I feel like people are gonna use her as a number. I think the only thing everyone might worry is the fact that she's probably the biggest wild card in this cast. Because they don't know where she would land. But also, Susie's a very loyal person, so whoever she sticks with, I think she's gonna stick with till the end.
Susie definitely has an infectious personality. I thought she was like one of the most bubbly prod members, which is almost kind of a good thing to have when I was a player and I was constantly like being game body and looking to prod as like a way to vent. And then Susie was just always there, like as a different, calming, kind of happy perspective. Um, I really appreciate Susie. I think Susie's like the type of person you kind of need on a season like this, where hopefully it can balance out some of the intensity and some of the game body players. And I also think Susie will have the benefit of like knowing most of these players from a production kind of mindset, like seeing how they played gives her that advantage. And I don't know if people are going to clock that immediately because I don't think people are going to clock her as the target she could be immediately, which will also work in her benefit. I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited to see her play. And I think as long as she's able to make it past the first couple rounds, she could really develop a kind of snowball effect and steamroll.
So Susie is, like we've all said before, an enigma that goes without saying. Susie has this weird way of blurring the lines between like, is she serious right now or is she trolling? And she knows exactly which she is at any given moment, and it's both. She is seriously trolling. So it's absolutely hilarious. Now, Susie is going to benefit because she is going to have the connection in Jess that I think Jess and Susie will both utilize, in the sense that Susie will always be a number for Jess. And that will, two is better than one. Susie also, as a production member, is the call lurker. And Susie has spent many a night staying up and staying on Zoom and being that third person on the call and chiming in and joining in and getting to bond with a lot of these players throughout her time on production. And so Susie knows these players well. She's still a troll, in the sense that she's going to just, say, yeah, I mean, we could do that to anything that's brought to her. But I think if Susie wants to take this game seriously, or even if she doesn't take it too seriously, I think Susie's going to do well. I think she's going to go far enough because, again, I don't think, unless people feel too unsure about Susie, that's where Susie messed up in season 4. Was that they lost 2 in a row, and she didn't give people enough to go off of, and the votes just sort of ended up turning onto her. She would have made it a lot further, but I think that uncertainty led for people to just go, well, let's just do Susie. So hopefully that does not happen again, and if it does not, I can see Susie going deep in this game. I do not think, even if she's runner-up again, I do not think Susie has what it takes to win, and it's no disrespect against her. I just think that there's a certain element of sociopath that you have to have in you to win these games, and I don't think Susie has that quality. So I do think that is going to hinder her, but I do not have Susie in my top 5 of potential winners, but I do think Susie is going to go deep.
All right. After Susie, we are moving on to our second Firewall representative. Also the winner of Firewall, we have Alex.
I love this picture, first of all. Alex was obviously a no-brainer. I mean, everyone on this cast was a no-brainer to cast. But his win is very unique, where he really his win was like he won out. He won out. Um, it was very impressive to me. It was crazy to me that he wasn't sniped at Final Five because he did not have the power, which obviously didn't work out for the rest of them. But Alex, this is where his whole being a comp threat, uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, where his reputation, that's the word I was looking for. His reputation of being a comp piece started in Firewall. Um, and I think he like people definitely get more scared of those kind of things than I think they need to be. At least early on. Because I know like I played with Alex after his run in Firewall, and I was very threatened by him because of his comp prowess. So it really depends. I think being a winner plus being a comp beast will scare some people. Um, I'm not trying to shit on the winners and think that none of them have a chance to win, but I don't know how much he will go far depending on who he links up with. Because I think he will be able to make a lot of good connections because he is very integrated into the community, but it just depends on what everyone else's prerogative is. Like, do they want to keep the winners and the threats around, or do they want to get rid of them? So I think he'll stick around for a little bit because one, because of comps, but I can see him going like towards the end of the pre-merge because people won't want to see him in the merge phase because of his comps. And yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna be short and sweet because I know nothing about Alex except for the fact that his reputation precedes him. And so I think his entire game is going to boil down to how he navigates his reputation among the other players and whether he can turn that to his advantage.
Yeah, so I've interacted with Alex a total of playing a game with him for one day before I dipped from that game. But that one day I did play with him. I don't want to understate, he had one of like the best social performances of like a beginning of game I have ever seen, and that makes me feel really good with him as a player. Um, I'm not sure how good he normally does in orgs. I think it kind of varies across the board. Like we've seen him get first boot, we've seen him win. It can kind of go whichever way. I think he's definitely going to be a physical threat. I think he's also going to be a social and strategic threat. I kind of think he's all three. And that's really scary for anybody else that's on this cast. Um, I I don't know. I could realistically see him gaining a lot of steam, but I don't think this cast will let him. Um, I think out of the winners, he's probably ranked for me fifth or sixth most likely to make it to merge. Um, because I simply don't think they'll let him get there. But if they do let him get there, if he won out again, like I would love to see it. Because I think he's a lovely person from my interactions with him, and I think he has the chops. It's just this cast is I'll say it in the best way I can. I've played something like double digits of these games. And I've watched a ton more. This is the hardest cast that I've ever seen, and I have no idea how anybody is going to navigate this. I've never seen a more socially and strategically strong cast. So having a threat going in with this is going to be so much more of a detriment than it normally would be. And I think that's why we're being harsh on the winners because they have that automatic debuff going into this season. But if they can overcome that, perfect. I think they have great odds. They've won before. I bet they could win again. It's just getting over that initial hump.
Yeah, for me, honestly, Alex is one of the winners I see actually making it to the merge. Because if you look at season two, aside from his comp wins, that man went into the merge with the least connection because of the twist. And he fought and fought and fought until he lost every drop of his allies. Um, and then from there he had to win it all. As far as this game, I feel like pre-merge, I feel like he'd be very beneficial knowing with his like reputation of being a comp beast, so, like people are gonna see that as like, oh, he will definitely help us out. But then when he hits that merge, that's when people are gonna be like, Alex has to go. So yeah, no, I'm also like curious to see how he would navigate that kind of gameplay.
While I know nothing about Alex's gameplay, I actually have a relatively good opinion on Alex as a community member just from their activity in the community, which is going to be interesting to see if other people view them positively or maybe that recognition will be perceived as a negative. I really don't know. I think how this season plays out could be so many ways and so many different strategies and mindsets could be implemented and we're not going to know until it actually starts, which is exciting. I'm very, very much so looking forward to that. But what I will say is one thing, or at least one hypothetical I've thought about um, that hasn't been touched on much yet is the season disparity and whether or not that'll be good or bad for Alex because I worry about it. But again, with the plethora of hypotheticals that could end up actually coming true, maybe it's a good thing. I just worry about it as potentially being a bad thing for Alex.
Yeah, Alex is an interesting one to try to assess because, on a personal level, Alex is one of my favorite people in this community. Alex is the first person on this list that not only have I hosted, but I have also played with. I may or may not have helped contribute to these reputations that precede Alex. Every time I do play with him, I tend to remind players that I hosted him once, and he won like every challenge. Like he won entire like every challenge in the merge phase. It was a thing. It happened. I saw it. Sorry for that, Alex. But he's also very, very cordial and is always willing to make things work. And I have played against him and I have played with him. And he's always able to, like, even when we're against each other, he turns that charm on and he's friendly and he's fun. I actually think that the season disparity may benefit Alex because when drudging up anything involving Kaleidoscope past, Alex doesn't have any baggage that he's bringing into this season other than being the person that won out. He doesn't have, Susie, I don't think is going to be as gunning for taking Alex's spot on the throne as other runner-ups may be looking to do. And I don't think that Alex has anybody that he's burned in this franchise that is in this. I think that benefits Alex as not being so it benefits Alex in the sense that he's not somebody that I think people are going to have a pre-existing reason to want to target. And his comp beast, a lot of other people that are playing this game have successfully won many a comps in their respective seasons. So it's may not shine as big of a light. So I do think all of these things help benefit Alex. That I can foresee Alex making merge potentially. That's my hunch. I don't know if I can see Alex winning. I do think that if he can position himself in the correct manner, he might. But I also think that there is a world where you get to final 7, 8, 9. It's like Alex is still in the game. Alex has got to go. And that's my assessment on Alex.
All right, we'll go ahead and keep it going. Next up is season 3, Solar Flare, and the first person we're talking about. I don't know if we ever figured out which season she was representing. She got 5th in both. People may call her one of the best to never win. We're talking about Caryn.
I think it's fair to say, out of all of our two-time players in this game, that Caryn will be able to represent both. Whereas like people like Susie and Brien clearly represent their seasons they were runners up in. But anyway, Caryn, this is the way that I felt about Caryn in season 4. I said there is no way in hell they are letting this girl get far. And here we are. She is so good at these games. And she manages to get people under her spell like so freaking easily. And I truly aspire to be her for that reason. But as everyone knows, Caryn is our cursed 5th placer, getting it 2 times in a row. And I mean, it was the second time especially was just so brutal the way that it went down. I am rooting so hard for Caryn to be the holder of the power at the final 5, because it would just, to me, it would just be so like satisfying for her arc. But I don't know. She like part, like it's weird because it's like, oh, like part of me is like there's no way they'll let her get near that, like anywhere near that part of the game. But that's again exactly what I said in season 4. And she just has a really good way of connecting with people. And I think that there are definitely a lot of people on this cast that are gonna want to be Caryn's like right-hand man. So I think, I'm very hopeful for Caryn. I would agree that she is definitely one of the best to never win this series. And yeah, I'm really excited to see her play again. I know she's also taken a little bit of a hiatus from the playing side. Obviously, she still hosts. Um, but yeah, I think she's gonna turn it up like she normally does.
I don't think it's any secret that I absolutely adore Caryn. Um, and she has, I don't know what kind of mist or aura that she is able to get you to do things, even if they're against your own best interest in the game. I don't know how she does it. I would absolutely love for her to win this game. She's going to obviously be my winner pick. She'll always be my winner pick. Um, I do think that she will make it deeper than we expect because I think even going into season 4, there's always that because of our final 5 twist, there's always that, well, we can always get the big target out at 5. So even if you take her into merge, there's always going to be that. So I think her biggest goal in the game is going to be getting past 5. I don't think she has any doubts. I don't have any doubts that she'll be able to make it to 5. It's whether she'll be able to finally break through the final 5 and into the winners' circles.
Yeah, so this is actually my first time ever getting to like see Caryn play a game up close. I've heard the stories, I've heard the rumors. Interacting with Caryn outside of games, I believe it all. Um, I'm of the same boat. I think Karen's going to do well. She's one of the people I'd bet on the most doing well. She's, I'd argue, one of, if not the most connected people in this cast in a positive light with a lot of these people. What I expect going in is a lot of people are, like Jen said, going to try to become Karen's right-hand man, with the expectation of, oh, I can just use Caryn and then cut her when I need to. I know if I was playing, that's probably what I'd try to do, and I'd fail miserably. So I expect that to happen for a couple of these people. Yeah, I expect her to make it pretty deep because I don't really see anybody looking at her in a negative light other than she's really good at these. And it starts and ends at that. I think there's enough beef with other people in this cast that they're not going to be looking at her for the first couple rounds. And once those first couple rounds are done, she's going to have her claws in, and there's not going to be any way to get rid of her. Um, I agree. Her getting the final 5, I think it's called the Javelin, would be so iconic, and I hope for it to happen. I expect Karen to at least get to merge. I could see a world where they cut her early merge, question mark smiley face, but I'm hoping they don't. Um, but yeah, I can just tell that she is insanely good at these, and I'm so excited to see her play from a prod perspective.
So just like Zach, this would be my first time seeing Caryn play up close. I've heard everything else, the rumors about the Final Five. I've seen the videos. Um, I'm excited to see how she'll navigate, especially like the fact that she has a lot of connections in this game on who she picks as her right hand man. Um, and where her loyalties would lie. I don't I don't see people targeting her. And when they do, I feel like when they people do try to target her, she would just turn the table and they'll go home instead. So
Looks at Nick in season 4. Yeah, love you, Nick.
but yeah, like I'm excited to see her play. And just like Corey, she was also my winner pick. Not gonna lie.
I would just love for it to happen. What a better third time's the charm than her pulling it off.
I only know Caryn from the production perspective. As she was prod when I played CTC, but like I'm very excited for Caryn just based off the little prod chat interaction we've already had. Because I've said it once, I'll say it again. I'll probably say it multiple times tonight. I'm here to support people who play a more villainous style. All right, I'm going to support my people, the villains, and Caryn's already promoting that, which I'm excited to see. She she said that she wants to take the title of favorite villain. Go ahead, take it. I want to see some cutthroat gameplay, and I think we'll get that from Caryn, which I'm all here for.
Caryn is going deep. If Caryn is not going to be targeted early because I think she's actually going to benefit from, I would say, how this cast is sparsed out, because I think there's a lot of people that have been hosted by her that are coming up when we reflect on the later seasons that have never played with her. And so she may kind of have some people being a little bit starstruck of getting to play with Caryn, which is going to greatly, greatly benefit her. I think that Caryn, if she comes in 5th place again, like, I just burn it down. I don't know what to say. That would be terrible. But I don't see that happening. I do think that there's just some written in the stars destiny where I see Caryn having the power at Final 5, and I hope that for her so much. But there's something about, and it's like, I don't know if it's going to result in a Caryn win or not, but like, Caryn has been like our unofficial mascot for like a few seasons now, and I just feel that Caryn deserves the title of winner of Kaleidoscope, and for Caryn to be the all-star winner of Kaleidoscope would be the most fitting position to have her. And so she needs that asterisk next to her name on the S8 on the third time playing. So she is taking up one of my 5 spots of potential winners of this game. So Caryn, you're gonna do it. I think so.
I would like to just like add like just like a random thought I just had. I am so curious to see how Jess and Caryn will interact. Because I know Caryn hosted Jess and CTC that one time, but I don't know. I feel like they're both such like strong women that I just would love to see it. I don't know. I just it could either be like a power hungry like rivalry, or they will band together as iconic bitches and just run it, and I'm excited for that. I hope that we get to see that.
Period. All right. Next up, we have our runner-up, our second placer from season 3. We have Austin.
Austin, we love Austin. Um, Austin in season 3 was fantastic. Um, I think that his run in that season was very strong, and that he absolutely has potential to win. I think for him, people were just kind of upset that he just he just ran that season with his best friend and just rewarded her for that for that. Um and so that being said, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this cast reacts with both him and Cami in the game again, because people didn't really know as much in season 3 that they are literally IRL BFFs, but people know now. So, how will they use that to their advantage? I don't know if they will be able to. And I think of the two, even though Cami is a winner, I think Austin is more of a threat. And I think people will look at him before they will look at her. So, yeah, I don't know. It just depends on it just depends. I think that he may have some trouble if that's the way that people are thinking, which I can see being the way that people think. But I don't know. We'll see.
Um, Having played with Austin and being the one that he backstabbed to get to the final two with Cami, um, from my perspective, I'm okay with the backstabbing. It's just I felt as though he did a lot of unnecessary lying, which ended up putting a bad taste in a bunch of people's mouths. That coupled with the fact that I feel as though he is going to do better if Cammy's not in the game. And I don't know which one is going to be the larger target, which one people go after. So for me, it's going to be more interesting to see if Cammy or him goes first. But I do think that he would be in a stronger position if he's not so tied to Cammy. So if he's able to create distance, then I do think that he has the potential to go far. At least merge.
Yeah. I actually haven't seen Austin play a ton, and when I have seen him play, he hasn't done amazing. But that was ages ago, and clearly he's doing something right now. Um, I'm about to say the dumbest thing possible for my assessment of this. So fair warning. For some reason, in my head, since I've been in this community, I've always mixed up Austin and Brien. Um, so in my head, I'm like, one's gotta go. One's gotta go. I don't know what it is about them. They just give me like the same energy forward. I definitely agree that Austin's going to be looked at a lot more.
They're
Sorry, go
both
ahead.
they're both potheads.
There
I
you
I
go.
wasn't gonna say it.
That's fair. Yeah, the both I've been on call with both and they have the same energy on calls, so I guess that's what it is. Um but yeah, I think that Austin's absolutely going to be targeted more than Cammy. I think Cammy's going to be the least targeted winner or one of the two least. We'll touch on the other one later on. But I think people are going to look at Austin. Um I do love Austin. Austin just hosted me and Jen very, very shortly before this season started. I think he's great. He's also notified us that there's a little bit of pre-gaming going on. So if people are reaching out to him for it, that's a good sign. Um, yeah, I think there's a little bit of crushing going on between some of the players this season before it's even started. So we'll see if this turns into Love Island question. I don't know. I think Austin could definitely get into a good position. I think he has that ability to connect with people, and I think he has that strategic mind. Something I do want to note is that like I can definitely see him being the type to lie way too much and fail to jury manage. Which kind of brings me back to like my worry for second placers this time around. I could see him going early, getting caught into a lie or something like that, especially having like, okay, these two are best friends IRL. We have to get one of them out. And if they're thinking that, they're gonna say we have to get Austin out. And then unless he has some way to counter that, he's gonna be gone. Um, I think he would be in a significantly better position on this cast if Cammy was not also here. But with those two being there, I'm very curious to see how he navigates it. If he tries to work with Cammy again, or if he cuts them early. Um, yeah, fight with Brien. We'll see who comes out on top.
Um, as someone who's like friends with Austin, the one thing I've noticed when even just talking to him is the fact that the one thing I picked up was this man is a flirt. This man's very charismatic. And I feel like he would definitely be like that would be a beneficial for him in this game with a few people. Um, my only worrisome is how he has conversations with people because I could see like him being very charismatic and like flirtatious can come off very it can be fake, how genuine it can be. And from like what I heard now is like, I guess if he makes it to the end again, can he articulate the moves he's made and actually own up to the lies and like, you know, own it, I guess.
One thing that's been said a lot about Austin is how the connection to Cami is going to be a negative. I'm also very curious because there's going to be a couple people where that is going to be true. I'm curious to see if any of those duos or trios that people very quickly pick up on turn on each other. And I don't know how that would play out. Almost like a, blood versus water thing. What was her name? The girl that voted out her mom. I can't
Sierra
remember.
Easton.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Zach. No,
Trumpy,
yeah. What'd you say?
Trumpy Queen.
Oh, sorry, I just completely derailed my own thought. I would love to see like that level of like blood versus water betrayal. I don't know if it'll happen here, but it's gonna have to happen for Austin to succeed.
So I have played with Austin. Well, I played with Austin actually before hosting. Then I hosted Austin, and then I played with Austin after hosting. I learned a lot about Austin's game and that Austin has evolved a lot. Austin may tell lots of lies, but Austin is also somewhat oddly loyal. Now, Austin may or may not have should have won this season if you were taking maybe an audience poll or something like that, if who objectively played the better game. I think that Austin would probably have been determined as the person that played the best game. However, at the end of the day, you have to manage the jury, and the jury makes that decision. And so, therefore, the winner plays the best game. Like, that's indisputable, in my opinion. But when it comes to somebody that has never won, that has grown a lot in the way in which they've played. They now host a series that collects trophies of all-star players upon all-star players to come through their corridor. Austin also knows now a lot of these players because they have all been through the Boto corridor. I do believe that if there was ever a chance for Austin to win a game, that this could be the season that Austin wins. And we have been very lucky that I believe 6 of our 7 winners won for the first time in our series. And so could we be seeing the crowning of Austin's first win in the series that he arguably should have won the first time he played? I do think it's very possible. I think Austin has the malleability to exist. Now, with that being said, Austin is going to need to cut the next player that we talk about very early. But will that be a double-edged sword? Because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, we know that because Cami is in the way of anybody else being Austin's number one. But if Austin cuts Cami, if he's willing to cut Cami, then who isn't he willing to cut? It's a double-edged sword. But, again, the flirtmances are alive, and you can pregame all you want, but, like Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. You step out on that beach, the game begins, and the votes start flying. None of that pre-gaming matters. So Austin is in my top 5 of potential winners. So far, I have Jess, I have Caryn, and I have Austin. Who will the other 2 be?
Before we move on, I just want to say I don't know how I missed this. Maybe it was because I was focused on Brien. Yeah, the connection with Boto, I think, is actually going to do Austin a lot of favors socially, which alleviates a lot of my worry I had for him. So yeah, I'm excited to see him play. And now we're gonna keep going. We're gonna go to our first placer, our winner of season 3. We have Cami.
Cami is such an icon. Before we hosted Cami, I played EXP with them, and that was their first game, and they did so well. I think they got player of the season even. I think they got like maybe like fifth place or fourth place or something like that. So I think that there's a lot of the, talk of like Austin and Cami working together, but Cami is very, very, very capable of holding their own. And that is all in their social game. Cami is a very sociable person and she's very likable. Um, which is why like I don't know if she's played other Survivor games. I think Boto, but that's not Survivor, so but either way, great track record. Um, you know, like Topher said, the winner of the season is the winner of the season. I don't care what you say. Cami deserved that win just as much as any of our other winners. And and she just plays like more of like an under the radar game, which, clearly is very different than the way that people like Austin play. So it's just two very different sides of the coin. Um, that being said, I think Cami is another person that my concern with them is that first round. I think that first round will rely a lot upon like connections in the game, which I don't think Cami has very many of besides Austin. And I think also being able to be active and on call. And I mean, she's usually pretty active when she plays, but she's very few and far between with the games that she plays. So, I hope that she is around enough to make the connection she needs to just not be an easy first boot. I don't think she will. And then I think she'll be fine and she'll go decently far as long as if she's able to get Austin. I wonder if she'll be able to recognize that she needs Austin out just as much as Austin needs her out. I would love to see them actually not play together. It'll be interesting.
No, and I definitely agree, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I feel as though she in season three benefited from Austin. Austin was basically, at least from inside of the game, how it felt. Austin was her big brother, her protector, constantly going out of his way because her name came up multiple times, and somehow, some way, every time we got to the vote, it was no longer Cammy, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? So I would love to see Cammy play the game her way. And I think that would be, for me, an interesting perspective into how Cammy plays, because past that, I don't know how Cammy plays.
And again, just to add one more, like again, I think I said it with Austin too. Of in season 3, people didn't know that they were besties. Now people know, so it's going to be very different for them both.
Yeah, I know nothing about Cammy, but I stan, and I'll ride with that. I think out of all the winners, the person that is going to be least affected by the winner's debuff is going to be Cammy, especially if it's a thought across multiple people that Austin was robbed or whatever, which isn't a thing, and it never will be a thing. Because the right winner wins. If you suck at jury management, that's on you. That's part of the game. But that's a conversation for another time. Yeah, she seems like somebody just based on her prod chat that's going to be pretty social. Somebody that knows what she's doing. With their limited experiences, we have to consider either like the positives or the negatives of having connections. I could see people being targeted for having a lot of connections, and I don't think Cammy has to worry about any of that. I really want to see Cammy go after Austin. I would love to see that battle. I would love to see one of them go early and the other one excel, whichever one it is. And yeah, I would just something about them from my limited knowledge. I stand. I want them to do well. I want them to make it far, even if they don't win. Yeah, good vibes all around.
So yeah, I don't really know Cami that well either. Um, just by hearing what y'all said, I feel like they're going to be a social player. I also think out of all the winners, I feel like Cami is the least one to get targeted in my eyes. I feel like people would just start noticing that Cami would be the better fit in their gameplay compared to like Austin if they are grouped together. Um, but yeah, that's all I have.
I also feel like this is the most likely winner to potentially go far, for me at least. I don't know. I see a lot of difficulty for every winner finding success in replicating their win and being crowned the winner twice. But for Cammy, I feel like that reputation could help, and it will be the least difficult path potentially of the seven we have. It's tough. I worry about all the winners, but this one not as much compared to the others.
Oh, so with everything I said about Austin, no intention to take away anything that Cammy did because Cammy 100% deserved the win because Cammy is a social threat. Cammy is also a challenge threat. Cammy won 2 individual immunities. Okay. Cammy also won the power to eliminate Caryn at Final 5. So Cammy is a very, very skilled social player. The only other time that I've like experienced Cammy play was in Boto, which I don't count Boto for me as a player as like canon to lore of playing with players because it's just a different element of playing. So like I've not played a intense social strategy, but Cammy was doing very well in that and only ended up eliminated due to a purge. So what?
I was just going to add to what you said. I'm assuming that people can hear me. Cammy, specifically in Boto, was actively protected by people. People such as Josh.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to note as well. So that could be, one of the few people that she knows in this game, and maybe that relationship will reblossom. Who knows?
So with what I said about Austin needs to get rid of Cammy in order to pave his way into having allies. I see a world where people eliminate Austin to have Cammy as their ally. So Cammy does have a very strong sense and chance of making it far. Now, with that being said, I think that I don't know how much will Cammy has to specifically win this season. Cammy's been a little bit semi-retired from orgs and even from hosting. So this is a little bit of a renaissance for Cammy. And I think that there's a lot of players that have a little bit more hunger in the game. And I do think that when you couple the fact that it's like, if you feel the need to take out a winner and you have somebody that isn't as, prominent of a personality, plays more behind the scenes, I do think that Cammy could end up falling to the wayside there. But Cammy, I think, has really strong potential in this game, and I'm very curious to see how she plays. I do not have Cammy as one of my 5 potential winners, unfortunately, but I do think that Cammy is going to do well, and I think it's unfortunate that Cammy and Austin's legacy is so intertwined from a previous season, but I guess that's the nature of All Stars. And now their legacy this time is going to be about how to undefine their defining feature of the previous season. And Caryn may just want retribution on Cammy for being one of the people that took her out.
All right, we're gonna keep moving along to our season 4 players. Season 4 being conspiracies. Our first representative of season 4, or I guess our second, if you're talking about Caryn, but our second representative who placed second place is Keaton.
Keaton. Oh, Keaton's so great. I've played with Keaton many times, and he's a lot of fun to host as well. Um, he's just like, I feel like he's just the kind of person that's just like fuck around and find out, like YOLO, like, whatever, goes balls to the walls and doesn't really care. Um, he played phenomenally in Conspiracies. I think that was one of our most competitive final twos that we've had. Um, and I don't know, he's another one that's just like he's really good at these games. He's on a handful, and he knows he's connected enough that I think he will go at least to the merge. Um, yeah, I'm excited to see how Keaton will do with this cast. Um, Again, it I think he'll do well.
I would describe Keaton as a chameleon. He is very much able to adapt to the environment around him and use whatever is happening in the game to his advantage. So I think that despite any connections, he's going to do what's going to benefit him and get him further in the game, and that's going to help him go far. I would not be surprised to see him make it to merge, if not final four, if not back in the final two.
I hate this motherfucker.
So
No, I,
as you tell,
I know firsthand how good Keaton is at games. I lost to him twice in a row in two back-to-back games in the finale. Yeah, it was a rough patch. Losing to Keaton is very demoralizing, but all things aside, Keaton is one of the best players I know in the org community. He is very good socially, strategically, and he's not that bad at comps. I actually think Keaton's kind of been out of the limelight for a hot minute, so people might have forgotten how good he is. I think his most recent game on this side of the community was the Collective, which, to be fair, he won. But I wouldn't be shocked if people kind of look at other players instead of Keaton, even like the winner of the season that Keaton was on. He has along with Caryn, probably one of, if not the most amount of connections on the cast, and I don't think any of them are particularly negative. Yeah, I just don't know if anybody is going to perceive him as much of a threat coming in, and that's going to be to their detriment. And I think Keaton's going to be able to make it very far, and I see a world where Keaton makes it to the end and wins. Out of the runner-ups, I think I have the best faith in Keaton as a person that can make it to the end. Um, but I'm very excited to see how he does. I know that he was super fucking nervous coming into this season. He's probably scared shitless, and that's only going to be exemplified by this cast and by this first twist. But he'll be okay. I have faith in Keaton. I know what he can do. I know he can pull it off. And yeah, expect to see him around for a while. And if I'm wrong, like I was about Kim last season, I'm just gonna stop making predictions because it's gonna jinx somebody.
Oh, Keaton. Um, Keaton. I played with Keaton before. I've tried to work with Keaton. We just never see eye to eye. Um, this man is really good. Like, and I've seen him play LRGs, and he's done well in them too. Um,
Wait, time out. Hands up if you've played a game and lost and Keaton has won. Just say, and those are all different games.
exactly. Um, I love when Keaton plays because the one thing I've also noticed about him when I played with him in another org is his adaptability. Um, whether an ally leaves, he finds something new, or an idle play, or like an advantage play, like he finds a way to get out of those situations. As far as this cast, the fact that he's already nervous, I think honestly, I think he could use that to his benefits. But aside from that, I, I think he can make it far.
Their reputation definitely precedes them as like I even know of them as someone who plays well and has won multiple games and is always seemingly going deep. And I don't know anyone here. So like if I know that about Keaton, I'm very intrigued to see how other people view him and whether or not that ends up being his downfall. But I'm excited to at least have Keaton on the cast because, like I said, this is one of the few people I actually know of, and it's all good things. So I think that'll be a benefit to at least the content that we get out of this season.
Keaton, I have shockingly never played with.
Really?
Somehow
Wow.
managed. That's a little fun fact. Because like even we were in Boto, but he went out like really early in Boto off the tic tac toe. I think was the rock paper scissors or whatever. I don't know. But I've never again. I don't count Boto as canon because it was like a weird situation. And it was Boto season 1. So, but like yeah, I've never really like played with Keaton. So I've never been in a game long form game with Keaton in it. I've hosted Keaton. Keaton made a very telling statement in his prod chat early. He said, it was like round 4 or 5. He says, games where I play the most sloppy in the beginning, I tend to go far. And so I think that if a similar situation happens here, Keaton could end up in a position that takes Keaton a long way. The other thing that I think Keaton has working for his benefit is that this series has a little bit of like an element of eras to it. There's a little bit of like an old school versus new school sort of pull coming into it. And I think it's because of the length of time that we have in between seasons, which benefits us. But I think this is the real like he played collective, but collective is not, it's a different type of game. But like I want to say this is I don't know if Keaton's played a survivor game like since this one. I haven't seen Keaton pop up in like any of the big ones that we know about. So like Keaton's sort of coming out of retirement for this in a big way. And I feel like that could really, really benefit Keaton. Especially with the newer players. Oh, he plays on a different side of the community. Okay, that's fair. Well, then again, especially with the newer players. So I think that he may be able to use his charm that he has and his willingness to play the game and this general sense. This is the thing that Keaton does. When you're on a call with Keaton, you're having fun. Keaton makes these games fun. And so I really think that will allure people. And I think that'll get Keaton far into this game. I don't have Keaton as a winner pick, although it would be very fitting if Keaton were to win because he is an all-star player and this is an all-star season. But it depends on who gets their grips. If Caryn gets her grips into certain players, I can see Caryn sort of outmaneuvering Keaton and having Caryn's army go against Keaton. So maybe not. I don't know. But that's what I look at and see happening. So I think Keaton could go deep. I do think Keaton could potentially be a winner, but I do not have him as one of my 5 winner picks.
All right. Next up, we have the winner of season 4. We have Jacob.
Jacob. Not us not having his season 3 placement on here. That's crazy.
Oh, my bad.
And no, I'm just teasing. But yeah, so Jacob played season 3 and we brought him back for season 4. He was technically medevaced from season 3. So he had the perfect story to come back for season 4, and he did the damn thing, and he won. He played a fantastic game. Um, Again, just like I said with Keaton, that, in my opinion, was our most competitive final 2 we've had to date. It was just really, really fun to watch, and the vote came down to one vote. They were going back and forth like until after they finished their speeches. Like, it was so close. But ultimately Jacob won, and he was a very great winner. And I think that as a winner that did so well, and a very active prod member, I think that people may be looking to target him. Jacob is like the king of like Edgic and things like that. So you know that he is very detail oriented and like puts a lot of thought and effort into when he hosts. So I think as these players see that about him, they might get threatened by him. But I think he also has a lot of connections in a good way, whereas people are gonna want to work with him. So I, I really can see Jacob going either way, either out early because people are threatened by him, or taken far because of his connections and maybe a little bit of his knowledge of how we run things here. So we shall see.
Jacob is probably the winner that I worry about the
Yeah.
most. Mainly because, as you just said, his knowledge of the game. He fundamentally understands players on like a psychological level and uses that to his benefit. And I do think that enough people are aware of that that I fear that he's going to be targeted relatively early because I think a lot of people understand that if he goes far, he's going all the way. And so I don't expect him to make it that far. I think he's either going to be a pre jury or an early jury boot.
I absolutely adore Jacob. I do not think this is the lineup for him. I really don't. I think he is the opposite side of the coin of Susie. In terms of both of them are on prod. People play and they experience Susie and they're like, oh, this is a very fun, nice person that I've gotten to know. And I mean, I guess they could call Jacob nice, but I think the takeaway that I would have if I played Kaleidoscope and Jacob was on prod and I saw all that he did, I would be like, oh, he knows what the fuck he's doing. I need to watch out for him if I ever play a game with him. Um, People know he's smart. People know he can go on for 10 minutes straight hosting a tribal council. Um, People know how well he knows the game and how well he knows how to play. Um, and with a cast this competitive, I ju I don't think because he's a good player, but I don't think he has that sort of mist that will allow people to forget he is a good player, is my main worry for Jacob. Um, he is one of the winners I'm the most wavy about. If he does manage to get his claws in and make it far, I would be excited to see, but I don't see it with this cast, unfortunately. And that's nothing against Jacob as a player, because Jacob's very good socially and very good strategically, but I don't see a world where they let him slide by.
I agree with what y'all all been saying about Jacob. This guy is up to the brick of dawn, getting the Edgic done one by one, going through each person that's played that he's hosted, and basically like see what their gameplay is. So he knows how these people play, but these people also know how he plays is the problem. Um, And the fact that his likability is there, he has everything checked off. He's definitely a threat. I've also never played an org with Jacob, so I can't really get my like own opinions on that aspect, but the whole prod thing will definitely like kill him in this game.
I'll say the same for Jacob that I said for Susie. I thought they had an amazing personality as a production member. But I agree with what has mostly been said here, which is that I think Jacob has an uphill battle. I think Jacob is someone that's going to be perceived as a threat, and the winner status doesn't help. So I don't have the highest belief as much as I want to, as much as I want to support him, of course. Um, I don't really see Jacob winning again. But I think the one thing that Jacob can benefit by is having that kind of interpersonal knowledge of every player. Like knowing the literal logic behind people's decisions is like it's a huge benefit. I just don't know how much you'll be able to use that if he gets sniped early on.
I have not played with Jacob that I can recall. I don't think I've ever played a long form game with him. Jacob has hosted me though, and I have hosted Jacob. Jacob is very, very smart and very aware of the reasons why people make the moves they make. And I do think that Jacob has a lot of potential as a game player in any other game. I think what's going to get Jacob in trouble is again, like it's been touched on here, is that everybody knows how Jacob knows how they play the game and how well they play the game. And I think that the it's not going to be anything that Jacob does specifically that would cost Jacob the game, but with Survivor being a game of human chess, sometimes there are players that just don't fit onto your chessboard and that you may see as somebody that, to me, somebody that can see through me is the most dangerous player in the game. And I think that that's going to be the way a lot of players feel about Jacob. And so he may end up going early. With that being said, though, Jacob is the most well-connected person on this cast simply for being the production, member on this cast that is the most connected to everybody, and has ties with the players that played before him. So this could be a good showing for Jacob. I also see a world where Jacob outthinks himself in this game as well. So because Jacob does tend to think and overthink. So I don't really know. Jacob's the biggest wild card for me because I don't know how others are going to actively respond to Jacob being in this game. And that's going to make it the difficult part. So I don't have Jacob as a winner pick. And I don't have the highest hopes of Jacob compared to the rest of the winners. But I do think Jacob is going to have a great time and hopefully doesn't go out too early. Maybe if Jacob's first or second boot, he can just come right back onto prod.
He's gonna read all of us with Phil when he inevitably watches this back at the end of the game.
When he wins and proves us all wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. When Jacob wins the game map challenge.
All right. With that, we're going to move on to the first Discord season. We're going to season 5, Coliseum. Before we get into these, I just want to say, in my opinion, these motherfuckers are going to eat. They're going to eat this season up. Just watch. Please don't kim me. Anyways, first up is our 5th placer from Coliseum. We have Andrew.
Another thing to add is that this season is our most represented season. It's so funny because we have talked about our rankings of what we perceive as our most favorite to least favorite seasons, and I think we mostly have Coliseum at the bottom, if not like second to bottom. but it's the most represented season, and I think all of the people that are on this season from that cast are fantastic and are all uniquely deserving of their spot on this cast. Um, with that said, we are starting with our Robbed Goddess fifth placer, Andrew Denson. He had a chokehold on some of these people in this game, as he typically does. He is so good. People just gravitate towards him, and I I feel like whenever I see him play, he gets around the same placement because people know that you can't bring him to the end because you're gonna lose. Ironically, I think he won his first game recently, and that was against Topher. Um, and he's just really, really good. And I think I can see like the same path for him, like going really far, but eventually people just know that you need to take him out at some point. So maybe he'll turn into fifth place twice, Rob, just like Caryn. We'll see. But I definitely can potentially see that happening. But I think he's going to do really well.
I definitely would agree. It would not surprise me to see him taken out again at fifth. He in this season, if he wasn't taken out at fifth, he was winning. He had this game essentially under wraps. He had everybody in their pocket. He just he's a king for a reason. He is basically the male version of Caryn. He just knows how to talk to people and how to get them on his side to where everybody knows he's a threat, but they take him further than they should every time. So I think if he is able to get past the first couple of rounds, it would not surprise me to see him deep, deep into the game towards the final five or even into the final two or three.
This guy should run a cult. I mean that sincerely. I think he should look into that as a job prospect. Because oh my God, I think this is the one for Andrew. I think please don't let the fucking winner pick curse from me happen again. I think I have Andrew as my winner pick purely because I think he's going to be able to get in good with people, and they aren't going to look at him until it's too late. And there's going to be so many threats still around that he's not going to have that normal issue he would have where, oh, he's the biggest threat remaining, they have to take him out. As long as there's other threats along with him in the end game, I think he makes it to the end and he wins. I think he's very good at connecting with people. I think he's a very social person and a very strategic person. I don't think anybody's going to be coming into this season looking at him as one of their top five threats. I think in terms of this cast, he's probably around a medium level threat level. And depending on how hard these people go, I could see him not falling under the radar, but not being one of those top people that they're constantly looking at. With that being said, I do agree that he's in the same sort of Caryn spot, and I could see those two vying for power with their sort of influential play styles or cult leaderish play styles, as I like to call it. And we'll see if they either work together to make one super mega cult, or they go against each other, or if something else entirely happens. But I have a lot of faith that Andrew's going to do well this season. Again, he is my winner pick. I expect great things. Please don't get first boot. Please.
Question for you,
Please.
Zach.
What's up?
Denson versus Caryn, final five. Who you sniping?
That's crazy.
That's insane.
It's a possibility this season.
It truly is.
That's true. A Caryn versus Denson final five sniping situation. I think people look at Caryn a little bit more threat wise. I think they snipe Caryn, and I would snipe Caryn.
I agree. Side note, off topic of that, but I have it under great authority that there is someone on this cast that recently played a game with Andrew Denson, and they have some beef. That being my sister, Jessica. They played Squid Games together, and apparently it did not end well. And words were said about hopefully I better not see you in a certain game coming up because it's on site. So we shall see.
That makes me a little bit more worrisome about Andrew, but I think he's got it. I think he's got it.
I'm personally not worried because I feel like if you're looking at who can have a better grip on people, it would be Denson over Jess. Just because of, I don't know, Denson has this thing,
With this cast, I agree.
yeah, he has this thing that like you just want him. Anywho, as someone who's played Coliseum with Denson, I was really excited. You know, when I saw the cast, I was like, "Oh, Denson, yes, I want to play with him. He's, he's very strategic. He's social." When I got to the merge, that's when I was like, "Oh, no one's looking at him. No one has said his name. He had 0 votes cast against him at that point." I tried to shoot my shot and I missed, and I got shot instead. Um, and going into that jury, I was like, Denson's my winner. If he makes it to the end, he is winning this game. But no, and then I just played Distortion with him where exactly the same thing happened. No one was looking at him. 0 votes cast against him. This time I didn't miss. Um, but like yeah, like Denson's so fucking good at these games. I can see him making it to the end.
So I admittedly know nothing about this player. But from what I'm hearing, I feel like I'm being indoctrinated into the call. Like I'm already believing in their success. I think my worry then would be if other people in the cast have this high opinion of them and the way they play and the way they can control a game. But I think Zach brought up a really good point, which is like there's so many threats that are of such a high caliber in this cast that maybe it's not that big of a worry. I don't know. Maybe I'll be the next best cult member and I'll fall in line. But I'm excited to see them play.
Is the cast of cult leaders. Because yeah, it is very much so going to be the cult of Denson versus the cult of Caryn. I do know that there's going to be elements of Denson versus Jess, and Jess, in a lot of ways, amasses people that protect her, and to see how this cast falls on that spectrum is going to be so juicy and fun to watch. Denson, I have played with 3 times. I have played with Denson more than I have played with anybody else in the org community, just outright. Well, maybe John Farrell. And Denson is very, very good. I bested him in Spellbound. He beat me in the final 2 in a Wheel All Stars. And then I came from him early in CTC's past versus present. And I did so because I know exactly how Denson is as a player. And I knew that if Denson had any legs and wiggle room and opportunity to move forward, Denson would succeed and make it very deep in the game. And it was a shot of respect that I, worked in, participated in getting Denson out early. Now, will others in this cast recognize that? There are a lot of people from Coliseum that are here, but are they going to actively go to target Denson? There are a lot of people in this cast that have played with Denson in various, factions and format. I think that Denson will go deep. but I do think that Denson's reputation will precede him. And I think that Denson has played very well very recently in a lot of games. And I think with this cast in particular, I don't know if they will lean to Team Denson over some other people that they may be more inclined to play with. I think Denson could prove me wrong. I would love to see a Denson win. I 100% would love to see a Denson win. I just think with all of the power struggles that exist and within this season, I do think Denson may go far. And I did not put Denson as one of my 5 winner picks. But I do see a lot of potential for Denson, and I'm very excited to see Denson play. Also, note, Denson's cast picks, typically, he's looking super gruff and like, you know, it's like a power move or like he's got the arms folded or like chugging a drink. In this, he's like an angel. He's like, please don't shoot me. So, cheers to Denson.
Right. Next up on the docket, we have our 4th placer from season 5. We have Nova.
Oh, I absolutely love Nova. Nova is someone who I've only seen go far in games. They are just one of those people that knows how to make conversation with the wall. Like they can talk to anybody. They are just really good at forming those social bonds. So I definitely see Nova going very deep. Um, Nova and Denson were also very tight in that season of Kaleidoscope. So I would be curious to see if they, uh, they got to see each other again and got to play together again. Um, they're very, it's just, they're very sweet and like, like I just feel like they just play so upfront and honest, and just like everyone just absolutely adores them because they're just so sweet, and that makes people want to bring them further along. So I'd love to see Nova get far, and I think they have the potential to do so.
Nova plays a very social game. I don't think anybody in season 5 had a bad thing to say about Nova, which is why she made it to Final Four. I mean, I don't think anybody had any qualms with her. My question that you brought up is her and Denson were lockstep with each other through the majority of the season. So I'm curious to know if they happen upon each other, get sorted on the same tribe, do they pick that right back up or do they work against each other? So, how's their relationship going to move both of their games forward? Something tells me that they'll probably pick things back up and they'll work together, but it'll be interesting. She's a very good social threat. So, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out with this cast.
Yeah, I think Nova is likely going to be one of the most underestimated players this season. I think they're definitely going to be what would be the closest thing we can get to a sleeper pick. I could see a world where Nova makes those bonds very early on. Nobody ever really looks at them, and they make it deep into the game, whether they have a handle in what's going on strategically or not. Um, this is one of the people I'm most like assured will make it far. I don't think that Nova will get sniped early on. Um, as long as Nova brings the same energy that they brought to season 5, because season 5 they were very active, they were very around, they were able to make those strategic bonds with who they needed to. So as long as Nova brings that same energy, I think they're going to be completely fine. Do I think they have winner potential? I've never really heard them like speak in front of a jury or anything like that, so I'm not quite sure. I They don't strike me as somebody that would have amazing public speaking skills. But I could definitely see them making it to end game at the very least.
Nova. Playing with Nova in Coliseum honestly was fun. Let's not forget, Nova also like kind of spilled their gameplay in their Meet Me video in that season and still made it to the Final Four. So yeah. So while playing with Nova in season five, like Nova definitely keeps a lot to their close to their heart, especially with information. Nova was also someone when playing with them will not give you information or like finds a way to give you information that you think like I don't know how I'm trying to word this correctly. Nova will give you information that you already knew, but like just have that mindset like, oh, this is new information. But I just love that the authenticity. You know what I mean? Um, Authenticity.
Authenticity.
Yes, thank you. That they bring into playing these orgs because the, I just love Nova. There was something else I want. Oh, I feel like this cast is gonna underestimate the fuck out of Nova too, of how under the radar gameplay they also play. Because yeah. Anyways, that's all I have.
So Zach jokingly talked about mixing up two players earlier, and I also have been the victim of that as I've been mixing up constantly when discussing things or like looking at prod chats, Nova and a player we've yet to discuss, Noah. And for my mental health, I just need one of them to go early. Like I cannot have both of them in the game. I cannot have both of them go deep in the game because I'm gonna get them confused just based off how similar their names are, and it's gonna be a problem. But uh, I mean, we can talk. I'll talk about Noah when we get to Noah, but I think Nova has the better shot of making it farther in the game and hopefully not being that person that I get confused constantly. I think they will see some success due to a very well-placed threat level, which isn't too high, it isn't too like so I don't know, bottom of the floor low that like they can just be picked off as kind of an easy vote. But again, we'll see. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I think that the thing that excuse me, sorry, I couldn't sneeze while you guys were talking. I think that the thing that Nova has going against them is just simply the fact that the entire final five of Coliseum is playing this game. And so if the looming threat of all of Coliseum plays a factor, then I do see that Nova could catch strays in being eliminated in that style. I think the same could apply to Andrew Denson and like together, their entire season. But I think Denson has a little bit more of a legacy beyond Kaleidoscope in our side of the community. Whereas I don't know if Nova's played that much as far as I don't know what Nova's history is with CTC or Distortion or the Collective or any of that. So it's going to be interesting to see how Nova fits into this. I do think that Nova is really good socially and that Nova will get their teeth into some players and form tight allyships very early on that will carry Nova deep. I don't know if Nova's ever been to the final two or if Nova's ever won. But I know that Nova is not someone that is always on first of mind to want to get rid of. And Nova is very, very skilled and very active on calls and things like that. I think Nova, even though Nova may be a lurker in like I don't know. Nova's active on the tribe chats too, but Nova's very much so on call often, and Nova's a pleasant person. So I see Nova making it deep. I don't know if I see Nova winning, but I do see Nova making it very deep.
All right. Next up, we have our third placer from season 5, we have Tyler B. We have to differentiate because there's 2 Tylers.
So, Tyler B. I adore Tyler. I played Tyler's first game with him, and he is genuinely so sweet and so kind, and I love him. However, as a game player, he is definitely cutthroat. He won Villain of the Season, and he likes to take the lead on things. And I don't know how much that's going to do well with this cast. Um, Paired with his schedule restrictions. That was a theme for him in Coliseum, and it worked out for him enough. But I don't know. I think with this cast, the way that he played, like his style of play being a little bit abrasive at times, but at the same time though, people did gravitate towards him. Like in his season, like this was more after he came back. So Tyler was voted out and then won the battle back. He won 6 duels. Absolutely incredible. Incredible legacy he has, and he made it all the way to 3rd place. I think that if he were to have made the end, he definitely had a shot at winning. The people on the jury were rooting for him, even though we were seeing the behind the scenes where he was being a little bit more devious. So, it really just I think that people might see through it a little bit more with this cast. But um yeah, I hope he um is able to be active, because I know that's like definitely a concern for him. So that makes me a little bit worried for him as well. So yeah.
The villain of season 5. I do worry about him only because, yes, the battle back, but that also goes to show that he doesn't have the mist, the aura, the enamoring power that other players in this game have. And so, there may or may not be a battle back this season. And that may or may not be to his detriment. Because I do think that if people see him and his gameplay early on, I don't particularly see him getting very far.
Yeah, Tyler B is probably the one I'm most unsure about in like a positive light heading into this season. I watched season 5 kind of like little on, little off because I wasn't really on prod, but I was helping with Discord, so I was able to see what was going on to an extent. Um, I know that he's very, very good comp wise, and he has a pretty decent social game, but I'm not sure how it's going to match up with the rest of this cast. I really don't get the vibe that this is the cast for him. Um, I don't feel it. I don't feel the energy for him right here. I also know I think he has another show coming on, so his scheduling is going to be a little bit tight again. Especially which will especially be a detriment in the early rounds of this game, where to survive, he will absolutely need to be social. Um, yeah, I'm very, very scared for him. If he can make it past this pre-merge, I could see him making a deep run, maybe an Alex season 2-esque comp win run. But he's probably the person I feel most likely to be pre-merge. But we'll have to wait and see.
Anyways, hey Tyler. Tyler was one of the allies I've worked with in Coliseum at the swap up till the merge when I voted him out. Um, and then in that game, like it really worked out with his schedule and the game because he found himself a core alliance and myself Benji, but also like the numbers were dwindling at that point in the swap that like he was already part of a majority, so it was easier for him to make it to the next round. As far as like the merge, scheduling was also a problem. But he had a reputation going into the merge with, being in a duo, being in a trio. So when he got voted out, that was the main reason. Him coming back into the game. Well, hold on. I'm backtracking a little bit. Didn't he also have influence in the game as he won duels? So he had some type of power, if I'm not mistaken.
He gained, yeah, little bits of, like, he could send notes into the game and stuff like that.
So like yeah, like even that, like knowing that afterwards, like he tried to have some type of influence in the game. Um, but it never really gained traction from my knowledge. Um, but yeah, like he won a lot of the battle back. Like he, he killed it. And I was one of the jurors who was like, if he makes it to the end, he's probably gonna get my vote. But yeah, no, that man's a good player. I just also agree with everyone else. I don't think this cast really fits him.
So I don't really know anything about Tyler. However, from what I've heard, I'll give one strong positive and then one concern, more of a negative. The positive is I'm always going to support a villain, like I said, especially someone who seems to be both villainous and have good jury management, which is difficult to do. So that's like awesome to hear and would be awesome to see. But I really, really worry for anyone in the early rounds of this game who is a bit more inactive and just doesn't have much time as someone who's in a one-on-one chat 24/7. And I I could see that being a reason why I won't put too much stock in Tyler, just because this is going to be a very cutthroat game very, very quickly. And if you don't play catch up or you don't play ball immediately with the people that are kind of going 100 miles an hour, you might get left behind.
So, from what I have seen of Tyler in other games and realms of the community, when Tyler plays newbie seasons, or newbie season, like newbie to that respective orgs, Tyler tends to go deep. Tyler's very bullish, and also in a lot of ways makes it very known who his enemies are. And so, therefore, if you are not one of his enemies, you are an ally, and you can trust that. However, Tyler does not do well in all-star games and goes out early in them. And I think that's because when you play all-stars, there's a different people play a little bit less scared. And so I think that will work against him. Yes, I think activity level may be a thing, but Tyler was also in a show during his last season. So maybe Tyler can get in good with some people early on. It's going to be very telling, depending on how these tribes get divided and how, where people end up. It really is a crapshoot on what the fate of these players holds. So I'm very curious. I do not have my finger on the pulse of how well Tyler will do, because Tyler's either going to go deep or he's going to go early. Tyler could easily be a first boot, or Tyler could end up being, in 6th, 7th place. So.
All right, we'll keep it chugging along. Next we have our second placer from season 5. We have Juan.
Juan is fantastic. I'm so excited to see him back. He just always brings it, and he's like one of those players that I really enjoy reading their prod chat and just getting their perspective on things, because it's very interesting to me. I felt that Juan was quite a bit of an underdog in his season, just because he was on a tribe that kept losing. And then it was just one of those really great stories to see someone get to the end. This was another close final two, in my opinion. I think that he did a really great job in the final two because I think there were definitely some people that were quite bitter towards him. That's crazy, but I think he did a great job in that final two of persuading some people to vote for him. So I think that if he gets to the end, he definitely has potential to win. And I think he's one of the second placers that might not be as much of a threat just because I think not that he's not a threat, but I think there are other people that are going to be more like loud and more out there to put targets on them. So yeah, I see Juan doing really well.
Juan, to me, is a player that goes to show that sometimes in a survivor game, luck has a lot to do with it. He made some very questionable moves that, from the production standpoint, I'm sitting there going, what in the actual hell are you doing? But I got proved wrong because he made it all the way to the end. So I do think that if he can have some repeat success, he'll be good. And I agree with Jen that his style of gameplay is going to lead to him being kind of middle of the pack. He's going to be a little bit under the radar. He's not going to be on anybody's hit list right off the starting gun of the track that is the Olympic Games. So I do think that he has the potential, if he plays his cards right and has just a little bit of luck, to go all the way towards the end.
Yeah, so I've seen little bits of Juan here and there, and watching season 5, it's very clear he knows what he's doing from a social and a strategic standpoint. He is one of the second placers I feel the best about going into this season, purely because I don't think he comes off very threatening to a lot of people. I don't think people are going to be worried about him coming in. Sorry, I'm trying to be a little bit quicker because we gotta get through these. But yeah, I feel very strongly about Juan. As I do with most of season 5. I think he has the ability to work with essentially whoever he wants this season, which I don't think can be said for a couple of the other players who are a little bit more rigid in how they play and who they work with. I could see Juan being a wallflower, just soaking up information more and more and more and using it to his advantage. But I'm very excited. I think he's going to make it far. I think he's going to do very well. And I'm excited to see him do well.
Juan was one of the closest allies I worked with in Coliseum. Um, this man, like I think this was our first game together too. I didn't know how he played beforehand, so like I was coming in with an open mind. He is honestly also very loyal player, very strategic, like Zach said, like he would soak in a lot of information and use it whenever he needs it. And I'd just gotten off of Distortion playing with him too, and he honestly did the exact same thing he did in Kaleidoscope and Distortion, where he just soaked in information, used it when the time is right. Sadly, he left. Anyways, but in season 5, like he flourished in the merge. Like he found more people to align with who, in his eyes, had a better path in the end. Um, my emotions just got the best of me as a juror and didn't vote for him, but I think he can thrive in this one because he's definitely an open-minded as a player, and yeah.
I said earlier how Keaton was someone who I've heard a lot about coming into the season, and someone that I've heard performs well almost always, and it'll work. I've also heard a lot about Juan, and similar, but to a slightly less degree of Keaton. I always hear stories about like how Juan places well, but it's not always the same high caliber level performance to, you know, the previously mentioned cast member. I, however, could see that being a benefit for Juan, where like if people aren't perceiving you as this great threat, it'll do you a lot more good in the early game than not. I think it'll just be a matter of whether or not they could use that and snowball off of it, but I'll also keep it short for the sake of time. And I have not much more to say because I don't know. I've never played with Juan. I've never seen Juan play.
I am very excited for Juan's project. Juan is one of the funniest behind the scenes reactors to people in the game. Like when, you know, things are happening and like Juan's on a call, Juan's side commentary for his prod chat is always delivers. So I'm really excited for that. Juan stated preseason that Juan does not do well in returnee player games. I have played with Juan in CTC. We were on the same tribe, but then got swapped away from each other, and then Juan was gone before the merge. So I don't really have a whole lot of experience playing with Juan, but Juan is somebody that I think I have high hopes for, and I do believe has the potential to go really deep in this game. So I'm excited for it, and I'm here for the entertainment that Juan is going to bring. Even if Juan's not here for a long time, Juan's here for a good time.
Right. Next up, we are going to go to our first placer, our winner of season 5. We have William.
I love this picture. I love Willia. William was somebody that going into this the Coliseum season I didn't know anything about, and he was an absolute delight. Like I literally loved seeing him play. I think he's a fantastic game player. I think he's social and strategic and physical. I think, I don't remember if he tied Alex with his comp wins, but he is another winner that got to the end with a lot of comp wins. But on the contrary to Alex, I don't think he needed it. He really wasn't, in my opinion, in a spot where people were going to be targeting him. That being said, he theoretically, as a social, strategic, and physical player, should be like ultimate threat. However, I think as a winner, he is, in my opinion, the winner that I feel has the most potential to be a two-time winner. Um, I think he has a really great chance of going really deep. And yeah, so I don't know if he's my winner pick, but if I had to pick a winner out of the winners, I would pick him.
William is definitely someone that when the season happened, I don't, speaking for me, I didn't have him on my radar as being the winner. I don't think anybody on Prod expected him to take home the gold. But he really, came to show and play that he has what it takes. And I think, yeah, like Jen said, he could repeat that success easily with this crowd.
Yeah, William's somebody that is very surprising. I don't know what it is about him, but he's like very unsuspecting. And then once you actually see who he is as a player, you realize how good he is. He's the winner I feel the most comfortable with making it far into this season. I think he's going to be completely fine. I don't see anybody gunning for him early on, not even his Coliseum besties. Yeah, I feel really good about William. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows how to make it far. And he just gives the vibes of a winner that would do good on a return run.
Sorry for taking so long. I when playing Kaleidoscope Season 5 with William, I feel like I've underestimated his gameplay until he opened his mouth, explained his game, what he did, which, you know, I ended up voting for him to win. And I don't even think that man even had votes cast against him that season, which kind of shows his social game and his impact. And he won comps. And I think those comp wins he won, he used it to his benefits too, to ensure the next round he was on the safe side and not the one going home. And I'm also interested because he's one of the people who also took out Denson, or he's the person that took out Denson. So that's going to be an interesting interaction to watch again.
The sake of time, I'll just be so honest. Williams may be the person I know the least of on this cast, or at least one of, which is kind of shocking considering they won. But like, I just haven't heard anything about William. Today's kind of my first introduction. I will say, love the shirt. Uh, makes for a phenomenal prop pick. Um, but I worry about all the winners, so I'm not gonna. I've avoided making concrete statements like who my winner pick is, so I don't fall to the same mistakes Zach made last season. Though there were some good choices that you made, like I think you called the six boot correctly. I don't want to say something so potentially proven incorrect by saying like Williams gonna go out early and then William wins and becomes the first two-time winner. But I will agree with uh, what was said earlier that I think of all the winners, I have less worry from this conversation at least. Again, I don't know anything going into it prior, but based off what everyone else said, I don't know, my anxiety of the winners getting picked off has been lowered with Williams specifically at least.
I think that William is my next winner pick to join the group of people that I think has potential to win this game. Um, because William is probably going to be the best at getting this idea of being a winner shaken off of him. And before you know it, William is going to be in a very solid position and somehow end up in the end. So I agree. William is most likely to win this game a second time. With that said, I really don't think we're going to get a two-time winner out of anybody because I think the looming fact that there are so many winners is going to play against them, and the looming fact that there are also so many Kaleidoscope players is going to, or Coliseum players is going to play against them.
All right, and with that, we have our season 5 representatives done. Good God. Next up, we are going to season 6, Jungle Journeys. And the first up, don't underestimate her. She is our lowest placing player in the cast, but she deserves her spot here. We have our 6th placer, Sanam.
And even though she's our lowest placing person, the fact that that is still 6th freaking place is in freaking sane, right? Oh my gosh, Topher, your camera. That's crazy. Anyway. It's like the side of our bed. That's so awkward. Sanam, from the games that I've seen her play, she is an absolute superstar when it comes to her social game. That's what got her really far in her first game of CTC, and she played that with Topher. So that, like, watching her play that, I was like, we need her to freaking play. And I was so happy that she was so eager to play. And she like in Jungle Journeys had a rough start, but because she was away for that weekend. But then when she came back from that weekend, she just dove right in and was able to make the connection she needed to make it as far as she did. And I think she was taken out where she was because she was a threat. Yeah, she's really, really good, and I think she's due for a win. So, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I haven't decided my winner pick yet, but I think Sanam could potentially be one of them. So, we'll see.
I'm gonna be so real. Season 6 is a blur to me. But what I do remember of it is that I was constantly rooting for Sanam. She's a good social player, and she's also very smart. We had a massive idol board, and Homegirl went and just she searched and searched, and I think she found quite a few things. But she was a beast in the social aspect, and I do think that she got recognized for that towards the end, and that led to her ultimate demise.
I adore Sanam. I was in her prod chat for her first game completely randomly. I just asked to join. And then I got to watch her play Jungle Journeys. And then I just recently played with her in Boto, which canon, non-canon, whichever. I think Sanam is an amazing social player, probably a top tier social player. Um, I think she's a pretty good strategic player as well. But I think truly the meat of her of what's great about her, it comes from her social game and being able to connect with people. Um, I think she's one of our newest org players in this cast. I think second newest, maybe Tyler and Renique are the other two that are pretty new. But I think she's playing orgs nonstop, so she's making those connections, and she hasn't been around long enough for those connections to turn sour. I don't think anybody's going to come in beefing with her, and I think people are going to want to work with her just because they like her. They love her vibe, and she's going to be in a great spot, I think. I don't see any world where Sanam goes home early. I think Sanam is always somebody that makes it to a merge, that makes it to a jury. And I don't think it's going to be any different this time, as long as there isn't any sort of upset.
I love Sanam. Like that's mother, not mother and mother. Anyways, like her, like everyone has been saying, her social game is impeccable. I mean, she's going to school to be what, a lawyer? So that's empty. I hope now that like more like I guess she can. I don't even know what I'm saying now. But I just love her. She also, like, there was a like she still had a 50-50 chance of going home and staying if her lines didn't flip on her because didn't her vote tie. So like even in the beginning, like Jen said, like she started off this game very inactive, and the fact that when she got back, she was able to get into a good positioning so quickly shows about her gameplay. And yeah, I think she can do it.
One of the few players I have heard rumblings of before this season, and it's usually all good things. Good things specifically about like the social game and the way that like people want to be friends with Sanam after the game, or like they feel not slighted by Sanam, which again, I think is a testament. If I have heard about you that, you're at least someone that I've asked around about or people have gone out of their way to tell me about. But the fact that it's also like a very positive kind of I won't put it on the level of like as bubbly as Susie, but like a good personality that people like want in their orgs or they want in their alliances. Like I think that's a good thing and something I'm looking forward to because I want obviously the tone of the season to be predominantly positive through the tense moments of blindside and betrayal.
Just real quick, what does your hat say?
Okay, I can have a difference of personal opinion versus production opinion. Um, but thank you. I forgot I was even wearing this. That's so awkward.
Or talk strategy with people with that.
So I love Sanam. I played with Sanam in CTC PvP, and she is such a ball of frenetic energy. It is absolutely amazing. I absolutely adore her. I immediately was like, you need to come play Kaleidoscope. She gets into Kaleidoscope. She only knows how to play a game one way, and that is full tilt. She puts the pedal to the metal. The gear isn't high, and she is on the ball. She's smart, she's social, she's strategic, she's good at the comps. She's got everything. And I think that Sanam is taking spot 5 of my potential winner picks because she is overdue to win a season. She has honed her skills, and this is it. This is the time that she is going to do it. Sanam, mark my words, we are going to be crowning the winner of Kaleidoscope Season 8 All Stars, Sanam.
Right, and with that, we're going to be moving on to our third placer from Jungle Journeys. We have Scott.
Oh, Scott is such an icon. Look at this picture. He is so adorable. Scott is someone that like in this season, I was so excited to see him play. I'm just as excited to see him play again. He is the kind of player who truly puts everything he has, his heart and soul into the game, and it's very evident from the second he's cast. Like his even now preseason, he's very active and participatory in his chat and even in the VL, and it's just so great to see. I absolutely love him. He obviously is great at these games. He was third place. He was player of the season. I think he easily wins this season if he's in the final two. But that said, I think people know him a little bit more now. I feel like he was a little bit newer to the community when he played when he played Jungle Journeys. And I think people kind of know that he is a gamer and he is very good. So it might bite him in the butt. I know some people have expressed I've seen people's prod chats where people have expressed being excited to potentially see him, and people have expressed potentially not being excited to see him. So I think he's he I don't know, his position in the game is a mystery to me.
Scott gives me a bubbly, happy feeling. His prod chat is always just such a joy. He just has an infectious personality. You just want to be his friend. And that makes you a large target. So I think if he can temper his target level, I do think that Scott can go far. So I would put Scott up there in one of my winner picks if they're able to manage their fellow castmates, because I do think that there are larger targets out there that they'll be able to go pretty far.
Quick side note, I would just like to note that Topher's thumbs down just now was not related to Scott. Just so that Scott knows when he watches this back.
Yeah, I'm feeling very similarly about Scott than y'all are. He's just good vibes all around. him sending his action shot like 8 different times is so cute and so funny. It's very clear how badly he wants to play and how hard he's going to fight with this. He's given us some insight in his pregame talks. If there was a guess for who I think will be Caryn's right-hand man, as we suggested earlier, I think it's going to be Scott. And I think Scott's going to be loyal to the soil on that one. And so I think Scott will do pretty well. I'm not sure if I'm expecting a run as good as in season 6, because third is really hard to either tie or top. But I expect him to be a pretty strong player this season and to make it pretty deep. Yeah, he was a lot of fun to watch in season 6. He played very, very well. He knows how to do the social game. He knows how to do the strategic game. And I think he's going to turn it up even more this time, especially with this cast.
I love Scott so much. That's bestie. The one thing that I honestly really like enjoyed Jungle Journeys about Scott is the passion he has. Because I remember the preseason of Jungle Journeys in his project, he was like, I want to change up my gameplay. The last game I played more villainous. This one, I'm gonna come more chill, calm and collective. And then he did it. And I think in season 6, we will talk about this person later, was a really hurdle to his game because he went back and forth whether or not if he wanted to target said person that we will talk about. Um, and that person was the one that hindered his game and not ensuring the final 2. So yeah, love Scott so much.
I'll keep it short and sweet. This is my favorite picture for any of the players. Um, if I had to pick a winner based off pictures alone, it'd be this one. But otherwise, I've only heard of Scott or from Scott in the like Kaleidoscope Discord, and that's it. However, very active from like some of the chats I've seen, at least active enough where like I remember their name, and when I saw them then on the cast when I was added to prod, it made sense for me even though I didn't know who they were, just because it felt like I could have enough of a grasp of their role, at least in our little sub community within the community. Um, I don't know what to expect besides that positive, I guess, notion I have of Scott. I don't know like if it'll be my eventual winner pick. I think I want to save that for like after the first couple people get weeded out in that beginning twist. That'll be my winner pick. But Scott's someone that like I at least have a good idea about them or a positive view of them.
Scott is in an interesting position amongst all of the season 6 players because the season 6 players seem to want to all do better than the other. So whereas I think that there's a looming threat of Coliseum being so large, I think there is a looming threat of season 6 actively competing against each other and targeting each other, which could work in their benefit in the sense if one can pull ahead of the other. But otherwise, I do think that it will work against them. And I think we could see somebody like Scott go way earlier than he should just because of prior game beef.
All right, moving on to our second placer from Jungle Journeys. We have Michael.
Oh, sweet, sweet Michael. I think that if there is one thing or one person that is going to get in Scott's way, it's going to be Michael. I think that's what we were all thinking. I think that if Scott is able to get Michael out, then Scott has a great chance to go far. But that being said, Michael, he is just a whole big ball of chaos. He was in season 6. He every time I see him play a game, he is just complete and utter chaos. And I mean that with the most love in the world. I absolutely love Michael. Um, I I don't know if he's going to get as far as he did in season 6. Because I think people will be more aware of his chaoticness. However, they swear up and down in their prod chat that they will not be as chaotic. To which I think it's one of those I'll believe it when I see it situations. Um, and I think that he is going to be he is just the kind of player that he's not afraid to call people out. He's not afraid to make moves, and depending on the cast, that can bode really well. um I don't know, it might bode him well again if he's able to get certain people out. I don't know, maybe we'll see.
The king of the yappers. This man, his broad chat, he talks so much. Oh, God love him. I agree that he is an agent of chaos, and Michael's biggest impediment in this game is going to be himself. And so, if he's able to manage himself and do what he says and not be that agent of chaos, he has the potential to do well. But we'll see.
I hate this bitch. Not actually, but I just played Boto with Michael. He was absolutely insane there. Love getting in fights with people. We all know. I think a lot of this cast knows or will know the amount of chaos Michael can bring. Um, and I don't think Michael is going to do crazy hot this season. I think he's gonna get caught up in some shit pre-merge and get fucked over. If he does make it past that, good on him. But Jungle Journeys, no shade to them, was a lot easier of a cast than this one is. I don't think some of the things that Michael was able to do in season 6 will not fly here. And some of the things he does in his game in general will get caught and will get checked and he will get sent packing. So I'll need to see some like very, very strong game changes from him because he's very good at coming up with strategies and very good at lying to people. But one thing I failed to see him do a lot is he's not very good at pivoting when he needs to. So if he gets caught in a rough spot, I could see it being his downfall very easily. Um, I'm hoping to see good things of him because I do love a yapper and I do love Michael and I want him to succeed. But I don't know. I think with his little beef with Scott, I think Scott's gonna come out on top. And Michael's gonna get put in his place, which is not second this time.
Um, yeah, no. As I mentioned earlier, Michael is going to be definitely Scott's bump in the road. As far as Michael himself, this man is someone you know, if you know me, I also love chaos, but this man is I wanted to play his game. Like I don't know how he did it so I guess good to make it to the end with his chaoticness. Um, just like, I kind of agree with Zach. Like I think he has everything in the bag. My only thing is he doesn't thrive on pressure. Like he overthinks like when he like come up with plans, he will overthink them and then overdo the plans he wants to do. Um, but yeah, no, I don't know. I want to have hope. That's it.
I have already uh had a similar kind of chaotic notion of Michael from his prod chat. when I got added to all of the prod chats today, most of them were like very quick catch-ups, kind of seeing people's vibes. Michael's is like, oh, I have to like read a novel. Oh no. So like, I don't know. I think that chaos could be good content, but I don't know if I would put all my faith into it resulting in a win this season.
Michael is the yappiest of yappers. I know that's been said, but it is very much so true. But Michael is a ton of fun as well. And I think that Michael is going to get himself into some dangerous situations. I think Michael being one track minded and the people that he wants to target and get out will ultimately hurt him. But I think Michael is going to be very fun for the time that he is here.
I just one more thing to add about Michael. He has said in his prod chat thus far that he wants to not play the same game and he wants to not be chaotic and he wants to lay a little bit lower. But even if that does happen, I fear that his reputation will not allow that to be a thing. I think that people will still assume he's being the same chaotic Michael that he is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. All right, we're going to keep moving on to our winner of season 6. We have Miss Renique.
Renique, we had to freaking beg her practically to play. She like actually declined at first, but then Chrisanne worked her magic and was able to get her to turn around and say yes, which got us to have all of our winners. So we're very, very happy to see her play. Renique, it was her very first org and she got first place. Absolutely incredible social game. um I don't think she really knew what she was getting herself into when she first started, but she adapted and she managed to get all the way to the end. She was decent at comps. Her threat level wasn't too big, and she went to the end with Michael, who unfortunately didn't have, you know, great relationships with the jury members. So she played a great winning game, and I'm really excited to see how she plays again. Um, that said, I think her main concern, which why she almost didn't play, is because of her job, as she has like a newer job that she works really long days. So I think she might n- potentially might not be as active. So hopefully that doesn't hurt her. Um, but I think she's definitely someone that can sneak under the radar for a little bit, and I easily can see her making at least the merge, if she is able to at least be active enough to get people, to make relationships with people.
Little Miss Renique, she's sassy, she's fun, she's smart, she's strategic, she's social. But like Jen just said, that Jungle Journeys was her first game ever. Um, and I don't think that she's going to be able to recreate her success from that game. So as far as placement goes, I don't know how far she will make it in the game, but I do know that it will be a fun time while she's in it.
Yeah, for Renique, and I'd say this for a lot of season 6 players, based on what that cast was, a lot of the successful games that season were based on like they were lightning in a bottle. So I'm not sure how well each of them are going to be able to recreate it, other than maybe Sanam, who I think will be okay with it. Um, I think Renique doesn't. I think Renique could do very well, especially socially, and is one of the less threatening winners. I worry for Renique because I'm not sure how much she wants it and how hungry she is for it in comparison to some other players. Um, I think she is somebody who, like we said, we did have to like convince her to play. And she's here for a good time, not a long time. But I could be wrong.
I love me some Ren. Watching her game in season 6 was honestly like at first I was like, I don't know how she's gonna do. And then the more she plays, the more she interacts with, her allies and her enemies. Like it was a roller coaster. And then when she made it to the end and articulated her gameplay and basically said, yeah, I had a list of my loyalties. When that person went, the loyalty went higher on the next person. So like loved her. Um Now mixing her with this cast, I really do think like she's gonna have an uphill battle when it comes to, like just even wanting to stay in the game in my eyes. But yeah, I also agree. I don't know where she would place.
I'm a big supporter. I did a little bit of research before I was on season 7 about like what the general vibe of Kaleidoscope was as an org. And therefore I just like look back at some of the, text chats that I could read in regards to season 6. And what I absolutely love, though I'm very biased, is like first time player, first time winner vibes. I'm big on like new players not getting sniped because they're an outlier of the community. I think that's like shitty and it doesn't encourage new and more people to join the community as a whole. But I was a big fan of that, especially as someone who was new myself. It was like seen as a really, really cool thing. However, I truly worry, as I've said time and time again throughout the night, about the winners going to have any success or being able to go far. And of the 7 winners we have, this is one that I wouldn't be at the top of the list as far as like who I think could win again, which is a bit of a bummer, even though I love their game so much.
I am excited to see Renique back. I don't think that Renique has any enemies, and I don't think anybody is going to be gunning for Renique specifically straight out the gate. So I do see Renique having a very strong performance, and I think that Renique will fly under the radar for being a winner. That being said, I do not think that Renique is going to manage to pull it off. I don't know if she has the time and energy to dedicate to doing so, and that could be what results in her being an early boot if that's the case.
I have one more thing to add. I'm sorry. I think someone mentioned earlier something about the potential for the runner-ups of each season wanting to potentially snipe their winner. And if there's any season that I see that with, it is definitely this one.
Fucking Michael. Anyways, we're moving on to our most recent season, which is season 7, Seven Deadly Sins. And the first player we're going to be talking about, we only have 3 left, thank God. Our first player is going to be our 5th placer, Tyler N.
Ugh, my love. I absolutely love Tyler. Again, even getting him to apply last season was like a shock to me. And I knew he would do well. So it's like it was a given for me to ask him back for All Stars. And I think that he played so well, especially in the beginning of last season. Like everyone vibed with him, but it was like towards the merge and second half of the game where people kind of started to clock him for kind of being in everybody's pockets. So I think it'll be curious to see how he plays again. Because I think I don't think he's played since Seven Deadly Sins. So it'll be interesting to see the differences of someone with their first game to their second game. I do worry about his lack of connections, because I think the only people he will know really are going to be the other people from his season. So hopefully people aren't assholes and freaking snipe people based off of that. But I don't. I also have faith in Tyler that he will be able to make the connections that he needs to, as long as he's able to get past the first round, because that's a complicated twist, I think, especially for people that don't have as many connections. So yeah, I think he can do well, and I hope he does well.
Yeah, Tyler's biggest downfall is that he had his hand in too many cookie jars. So it will be interesting to see how they navigate that coming for back-to-back seasons. Are they going to overcorrect, or are they going to try and run the same play again? So that will be very interesting. It does go to show their social aptitude, having been able to maintain their game with their hand in so many cookie jars for as long as they did. So I think that depending on how much Tyler throws the pedal to the metal in the social game, it'll be interesting to see how far they can make it.
Yeah, Tyler is for me one of the most impressive newbie games I've seen in a hot minute, at least in terms of first org. I know he's played minis and stuff like that. But they were very, very impressive with how good their social game was, in addition to how good for a lot of the season their strategic game was. I think it sort of started getting a little bit dicey from Final 10 onwards. But he was always able to recover again and again and again, and landed himself back into a good position. I think if he had a different correlation of allies, it would have ended a lot differently. But there was also a tight three that he couldn't break up on both sides, so he didn't really have where much else to go. But that's last season. This season, I don't think he's going to be harmed by not having connections. If anything, I think it's going to be to his benefit, because he's going to be able to make those social bonds early on, especially if he makes it past this first round. Once he gets in those DMs, that's where he really thrives, and I think everybody's going to absolutely adore him. And he knows when to keep somebody at a distance and when to bring somebody close. He is able to clock when somebody's lying to him. He's able to clock when he can trust somebody. And all in all, he's just a really, really good player, and I can't wait to see him develop, hopefully in this All-Star season, because he had a lot of correct makings last season. He was just a little bit too messy, which I kind of attribute to being a new player. And I think he's going to tweak that and play even better this time. So I feel very, very good about him. I don't think he's going to be somebody we're going to see going early on. I hope that he gets in a really good position, and I see him making it pretty far.
Sean's Wi-Fi crashed.
Rip
So
Sean.
I was wondering what happened. Um, anyways, I I said this both to like Broad as well as I think to a couple people last season when I played. I saw a lot of Tyler in myself, and I thought we had very similar games at some points where we wanted to play with everyone, but also play everyone. And I really, really respected the game Tyler was playing. I thought he was almost doing a better job of playing the middle last season than I did, which, like, that was the only strategy I really had at some points was just play both sides. And I think Tyler kind of outclassed me in that, which I was impressed by. I have a lot of high hopes for Tyler but also some worries. And I think because I see a little bit of myself in Tyler and I see parallels between us, the only concrete prediction I will make tonight is that like I could very likely see Tyler being the person that goes out fifth again. I know we talked a lot about like Caryn getting fifth yet again, or you know, other people aligning with their previous placements, but I highly see Tyler placing in that kind of upper tier, but not winner, not runner-up position. I see a back-to-back fifth. And again, maybe it's just because I see parallels between me and Tyler. Like my first game, I got second. My second game, we're getting second again. Uh, Tyler's first game, fifth. Why not fifth again? Um, I don't know. I really, really like Tyler. I have a lot of good things to say about Tyler, but this has already been going on for hours, so I will withhold myself.
Sean, you're up.
Um, hello. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
The one thing throughout the night, I was like, okay, what three people I see actually working together and could potentially be the final three would be the fifth placers in my eyes. I feel like those three could probably fucking kill it in a final three situation. And yeah, that's all I'll say. I love Tyler so much. He played a great game in season 7, and I hope for the
I knew Tyler from the mini world prior to him playing Kaleidoscope. This was my first experience watching him play a long-term org, and he came in and killed it. He started slow and worked his way in and built connections and had a very, very strong game and ultimately became the person that needed to be sniped at Final Five. Now Tyler is competing against other people that were sniped at Final Five that have a much larger looming legacy. So I think the fact that Tyler is an unknown in a game where everybody knows everybody could be his greatest asset in comparison to being its greatest detriment. So this has been going through this cast assessment. It has been such a, like, literally every single person in this game has a reason why they're going to go deep, as well as a reason as to why they're going to get cut early. It's such a phenomenal cast that we have here.
All right, we're moving on to our third placer from season 7, and then also a little bit of a flip. Our seventh placer from season 3, we have Noah.
Wait, that's like super cute. I love that.
Yeah, I know. I'm obsessed.
um, Noah, to me, the glow up that they had from season 3 to season 7 was absolutely phenomenal. They really, and that was their goal. They really wanted to showcase that they aren't just a puppet to be, dragged along, and they did it. They played a fantastic game last season, and I was so proud of them. So, uh, you know, seeing them back is really exciting. Um, that being said, I think he has enough connections to get him by. Um, but I think they're potentially, and I say potentially, like I really mean it, like potentially could be like a recency bias of people seeing how well they played last season that might threaten them. Uh, it might threaten the other players to maybe want to get them out a little bit earlier. But I do see them aligning with people that they've aligned with in the past, such as maybe Kedi or even Caryn. So you never know. Those people might want to uh help protect them. So we'll see. I love Noah, and I'm so excited to see them come back for a third time.
I absolutely adore Noah and the growth that they had from season 3 to season 7. Phenomenal. 10 out of 10. very smart, very strategic, very, very social, very snake-like in the fact that they're able to wiggle themselves out of, the corners that they've put them in. I mean, Noah, starting at season 7, I can't remember which round it was, but got themselves into a corner and literally decided that I'm just going to kind of shut up for this round, and was able to boost themselves back to a position where they were able to see a path to the end, and took it and hit the high tail button and hauled ass all the way to final 3. And then obviously somebody on prod cut that short, but we won't talk about who that was. Noah, I think, is a bit of an underdog. I think that Noah, I don't know if they have what it takes to have a repeat where they make it to final 3 or all the way and grasp the gold medal at the end. But I hope they do.
Yeah, I love Noah, and a lot of my worries for them in the last season were squashed by how they played. I think Noah might be a little bit too hectic for this cast. I kind of see him in like a little bit of a similar position to where I have Michael. And just like a little bit too confrontational, a little bit too messy. But Noah also could, I think, has a lot more potential to prove me wrong there. Especially because I know Noah is absolutely insane social game wise, and definitely has the strategy to back it up. I kind of want to see the trend continue where they just keep getting better and better, like seventh, third, and then second or first. I would love to see. I absolutely adore them. They were amazing to watch in season 7. One of the best parts of that season. And I think this cast is absolutely going to love them if they haven't met Noah yet, and the people that already know Noah will love him too.
I love Noah. Um, Out of everyone in this cast, Noah's someone I've known for almost a decade now. And like I've said before, like I'm proud of their gameplay and the fact that they just keep going up from here. I agree with what everyone has said, you know. I hope his trajectory of the game is just up. And yeah.
I expect Noah to do very, very well because I saw how good of a player Noah was firsthand as one of, his alliance members, and we had a final 3 that made it to the final 3. But my fear with Noah is that the threat level might be a hindrance again. Now, granted, this is a season full of threat levels, so Noah might have less of a worry, which could be good. But like in our season, I knew from like final 6 on, Noah was the biggest threat and would have won if Noah got to the end. And after talking with many of the jurors privately post-season, my fears were confirmed. Like everyone else thought so highly about Noah, the same way I thought highly about Noah, which is also a big testament to the social game Noah played. Noah played an amazing social game that like made people want to keep Noah around even when they weren't working with Noah, and it made people feel good about Noah. So, well, I think it'll be less of a problem this season, where like I said, from final 6 onward, I wanted Noah out and just couldn't do it because he won immunity, and then Kedi wouldn't take a shot at him, which broke my heart. And then won immunity again, so I was getting worried that Noah was just going to run the gauntlet. I think that'll be less of a necessary path for Noah, but still a concern, at least that I have.
So I played with Noah way back when, a long, long time ago. And Noah evolved so much as a player from the first time that I played with Noah till the time that Noah played Kaleidoscope the first time, to the time that Noah, finally came around to season 7. I think he's got a win under his belt now. So with Noah was off to a very, very rocky start in season 7. There was a lot of drama and people looking to make things personal that could have really done some damage to Noah, I think, in a way that Noah would have had a really bad time. But instead, the dust of that was completely shaken off, and Noah became one of the best players to grace the season and to fight hard to make it to the end and to be so close. I think Noah's excited to come back. And I do see that. I think Noah's got a really hard road ahead, because it's going to be interesting, the connections that Noah has going into this season, because I do think that now Noah is a threat versus previously when Noah was not necessarily deemed as a threat with some of the players that Noah's playing with again. So it'll be interesting to see with Noah at that next level what that means for how Noah is playing in this All-Star season.
Right, and we're going to go ahead and move to last but not least, our winner of our most recent season, the current title holder. We have Kedi.
Kedi. You can't spell Kaleidoscope without Kedi, am I right? Kedi, to me, was a front runner from the beginning of that season, and he absolutely exceeded my expectations. He did so well. And it was tough. Again, it was another tough battle in the final two. Shout out to Caleb. And you know, I think I fear, again, this kind of a little bit of the same thing I said for Noah. Like I get like I'm a little bit nervous of like recency bias, that people are gonna be like hyper aware of them and how well they did because it was so recently. Um, but I think Kedi's good at making connections with people. So hopefully he'll be able to slither right on in and lay a little bit lower, because I don't think he's the most threatening person, even out of the winners, out of everybody. But again, I think my only concern would be if people had recency bias, which they won't. But yeah. So I'm excited to see Kedi play again, and I hope he does well.
Kedi for me was a complete and utter unknown heading into last season. I didn't know what to expect, and I was completely blown away by their abilities in the game. So I do worry that anybody who paid any form of attention to last season is going to look at Kedi's performance and they're going to go, that's not somebody who I want to take to the end. I don't necessarily think that he's going to go out early, but I don't think that they're going to make it far.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how Kedi is activity-wise, because I think that was their main detriment in season 7. There was a little bit of a moment at the start of Merge where Kedi was nowhere to be found for like 2 rounds straight. Almost like their activity was like an inverted bell curve, where like the middle portion of the season was nothing. So I'm hoping that Kedi is around for the first couple rounds of this season, because those are going to be the most important in building a foundation for themselves, especially as the most recent winner, which I agree recency bias very likely might come into effect. I'm worried about Kedi. People know that they're strategic. Anybody that watched any of the finale knows that that's how Kedi plays. Noah loves to yap, and I could see Noah trying to murder Kedi very quickly. That's the kind of vibes Noah gives. Same with Tyler. And if that gets around, Kedi could be in a lot of hot water early. But I'm hoping that Kedi is able to survive that and make it into Merge. The kind of vibes I'm getting for them I think she's gonna get a little early merge, maybe is how I'm feeling. But it really could be anything. I think Kedi's such a wild card of a player. But they always seem to do pretty well. And I love watching them play. They are hilarious. I tried to listen to as many voice calls featuring them as possible and took it like a little podcast. It was amazing.
I feel like it's a double-edged sword when it comes to like a recent season and then the next season afterwards is All Stars because like looking at the cast, I feel like this cast has more, you know, has more things that they want to do. So I guess like the more recent people players are just not going to be looked at, I guess. That's I don't know. I also have never like been in a situation like I'm played a season and played All Stars right after. But I love Kedi during Deadly Sins. I think they are, you know, it, I don't know. I'm intrigued to what Kedi will do this season.
I knew I had it rough last season by the time I hit like final four, maybe beyond that. But I was self-aware that I was going into a situation where I was up against the world, but it felt less difficult and I had less weight on my chest being with Kedi because I absolutely adore Kedi. And like uh as much as it might have pissed off some of the VL that I cut Noah, I would do it every time, again and again and again, just to like take Kedi to the end. Because Kedi is like someone that's very important to me. And obviously I'm biased because we're friends in real life. In fact, like last year, I could kind of get away with telling the truth about the fact that we work together, but we don't really work together. We're not in the same, you know, area slash department. That's not the case anymore. I could get away with that white lie when we played together in season 7 because it was true. Now I'm like Kedi's direct supervisor and mentor, and obviously I want to see Kedi succeed, like both personally and professionally. But I worry for Kedi this season. One, because I can't, be a direct mentor and supervisor for him. And two, because some of the things that people pointed out about Kedi's, flaws, for lack of a better word, last season are going to be much more of a concern this season. Like Kedi's inactivity, which I know he's got another show coming up soon, which will make that only worse. And that inactivity is going to really hinder and handicap someone's game in the early rounds. And the fact that it's the most recent winner, I just don't see any of the winners winning again in my headcanon of how I see the season playing out. But I don't really see Kedi winning either. So as much as it breaks my heart to say, because I love Kedi, I can't convince myself that they're gonna go back to back.
I would like to just say, sorry, I like interrupt, but like both Zach and Caleb have mentioned like Caleb's inactivity level in season 7, but the way that he was able to recover so well from it is such a testament to how good of a game player they are. So I think that's definitely something to take into consideration as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm just worried that that will come into play early on. That's my only worry for Kedi.
I mean, I think Carlbot might be Kedi's worst enemy because every single person that has speculated on cast mentions Kedi, and they get a nice little Carlbot saying, "You can't spell Kaleidoscope without Kedi." And maybe, just maybe, this cast might want to find out what Kaleidoscope without Kedi looks like. No, I mean, again, it is the most recent winner. Kedi's gonna fall into the same trap that Josh is as the first winner of, you know what, Kedi is the returning champion. Kedi is currently the one with the crown. And it's one thing for somebody to come in, win earlier, and then come in and win again, but to let somebody win back to back, now that is a whole nother animal, which if Kedi makes it to the end, Kedi winning back-to-back would be very, very probable, because people would be like, whoever Kedi's sitting with in the final two, of like, how can you bring this person that just won last season? But I don't know. I think it's a hard road for the winners. In some sort of like giddy way, it's going to be exciting to see the winners get voted out, but I don't wish that upon them. But you know what? At least they got their flowers already, so it'll allow them to play a lot more free. But this is such an incredible cast. What was the average placement? Like 2.65? That is insane. That is insane. So good luck to all of these players. I cannot wait to watch you tear each other apart in the most fun way possible.
All right. And with that, that's our cast of 22. Does anybody have any closing thoughts before we wrap this 3-hour cast assessment up?
Again, the fact that we have 7 out of 7 winners, 6 out of 7 runner-ups, with the 7th one being on prod, like lowest placement being 6th place, like this cast is truly outrageous, and like it's gonna be a terrible boot order however it goes, and I cannot wait to see it.
This one's gonna be nasty, y'all. Strap in. All right. Seems like we're all good. See y'all after the season when everybody actually